The Gaffney Indians versus the Spartanburg Vikings. Bojangles' Friday night rivals.
It's the annual, the traditional Region 2 showdown, and that classic clash of powers. The Gaffney Indians and the Spartanburg Vikings set to do battle from Spartanburg County. With that, we welcome you to Bojangles' Friday Night Rivals. And Tom, you look back across the ages when these two teams get together, and you certainly look back across the last few years when they've been on our air. Always seems to come down to the final play.
Yeah, it has. The last three games have come down to the fourth quarter, unable to finish. Spartanburg, Gaffney's been able to get it done. Gaffney's won 8 consecutive. Spartanburg would like to break that tonight.
Well, so many Friday nights are about winning and grabbing momentum, and certainly that's available to you in region play here tonight. But these are two teams that plan on competing for a state championship year in, year out. The numbers on the walls, on the scoreboards prove it. These are two teams certainly capable of doing that again.
Those state championships abound for both these teams, and that's the goal at the end of the year. They want to win this game tonight, but it's important because it is a region game, as you mentioned, from a seeding standpoint. I know it's early, but it does make a difference, and we're anticipating that it might come down to the wire like it has the last 3.
First-year head coach Downey Littlejohn for the Indians. He was a long-time coordinator there in Gaffney. Mark Hodge now with his fingerprints and his foundation in this Spartanburg program he returned to several years ago. This shapes up to be a good one.
Well, it does, and you're talking about Coach Littlejohn. He's been there. He knows the culture there, and, of course, what Mark Hodge has been able to do here. He won a couple of state championships at Chapman, and he's got him on a roll here, too, at Spartanburg.
Only room for one of these teams to escape unscathed in the region. Only room for one of them to have bragging rights for another year. They used to meet a couple of times a year, sometimes 3 in the playoffs. Will this be their lone meeting this year? Time will tell. One thing we know, it's one you always circle, it's one you always remember. The Gaffney Indians and the Spartanburg Vikings up next on Bojangles' Friday Night Rivals. Vikings and Indians have taken the field. Gaffney and Spartanburg, the traditional rivalry here on Bojangles' Friday Night Rivals. What a joy to have you with us. Soldiered through a little rain to get here, then God placed a perfect rainbow in the sky. And I'm talking about a full one, Tom Van Hoy.
I mean, you and I were racing for the pot of gold, but we didn't find it.
You could see the entirety of it, and when you consider what happened this time last year in the Carolinas, the fact that we are all together, the fact that we have football and a rainbow in the sky, a reminder what really matters in life. We're happy you've chosen to spend a portion of your Friday night with us. And Tom, you turn your attention to last year. This one was a classic, as it has been of late. Spartanburg led by 3 possessions going into the final quarter, but Gaffney closed out the Dan Jones era of this rivalry with an improbable comeback in the 4th and a win, and they kept the streak alive of victories over their rivals from Spartanburg.
Yeah, they've won 8 consecutive, and the last 3 have been decided in the 4th quarter. In our conversation with Mark Hodge this week, we need to be able to focus, and we need to be able to finish, particularly in the 4th quarter.
Captains have met at the center of the field. You know, Gaffney's under the leadership of a new head coach, first-year head coach Downey Littlejohn, who was the longtime coordinator for the Gaffney Indians. And Mark Hodge, well, he's 6 years in, and what a job he's done establishing this program. And everything, even beyond football, though that's been true as well for Spartanburg, garnering the attention that you should receive on a night like this at Doc Davis Field. Well, the captains met in the middle of the field, and the toss was won by Spartanburg. They they opted to receive. So the Vikings will have it first. With that, we are underway here at Doc Davis Field in Spartanburg, South Carolina. And Tom, into the end zone it goes. It will come out for a touchback, and we're going to look at these talented and experienced playmakers on the Spartanburg side of things, and it begins with the quarterback, Trey Burke. He's a guy who knows what it means to lead them out on nights like this.
Big guy, 6'3", 207. Senior, he has been there, kind of done that. First couple of games, he got injured early. He's back. The last 2 games put 1548 on the board.
Among the best quarterbacks in the state. He's got one of the best running backs in the state off his hip. Trenton Lynch wears jersey number 40. You should expect to see a lot of him in this one tonight. The Spartanburg Vikings opting to take the first crack at it, and it's going to be to the skies. This is caught. That's first down yardage and a little more. They target Ferguson with the opening toss, and there's Trey Burke settling himself in just a bit. Here's a look at the surrounding cast of characters he can utilize.
Well, it'll start with the running back Trenton Lynch, 5'9", 185 junior, 161 yards per game, 10.6 per carry. Zeke Bell-Boyd, one of the outstanding playmakers outside, inside, anchoring Brendan Carson to the left.
Little toss this side this time, and Lynch is going to be wrestled out of bounds just shy of the 40-yard line. One play, Tom, and a first Franklin Financial first down already secured for Spartanburg. They come out firing on all cylinders. Here's a look at the Gaffney defense trying to slow the Spartanburg attack.
A lot of talented players. Defensive end Kamari Williams, big guy, 6 feet 255. Middle linebacker Zion Ratchford is the north-south guy. Darius Bailey next to him. Into the secondary, Zion Dawkins is D-back.
They've been gathered up from around the upstate. They're coming into their own. An experienced group for Gaffney goes to work defensively, and they limit Spartanburg's yardage on the first 2 plays of this new sequence. Here comes a third down.
Well, throwing the ball early, and then you go to Lynch and talk about the focus, as Coach Little John told us on number 40, and good job to come up. You got to be able to tackle in space.
Third down from the 41-yard line on the Spartanburg Vikings opening drive tonight in this rivalry matchup. A little bit of trouble with the footing, and it's picked as a result. Gaffney with the takeaway inside the 40, rushing with it out of bounds at the 25-yard line. The Indians see Ty McGill come up large here. Watched a little bit of difficulty with the footing, it appeared, that Burke had lying in wait. Ty McGill, who snatches it away for the Gaffney Indians.
Yeah, able to read that, had him open, cut underneath. He had an interception last week and that win over Boiling Springs, and one of 4 INTs they had last week, so the turnover early.
And the Indians with Ty McGill, kid who was the strongest offensive player on JV last year, put on the defensive side of the ball. Here's the guy who leads the offense for Gaffney. Banks Boughton is now at the quarterback position, expected to hold steady there for the remainder of the year. He shared time early, Tom, but now this team belongs to Banks Boughton, and the offense he has to work with looks like this.
Well, and you take a look at that, and then you go into the running back situation. Big guy Josiah Hill, wide receiver Brady Smith, 19 per catch, and Scotland Over, 6'4", 289, left tackle, anchors that offensive line.
You may remember Boughton from being on our air with the Greenville Red Raiders a season ago, and he finds his way to Gaffney this time around. Going to turn and hand off to the aforementioned Hill. That's good for a couple, and the third down for Gaffney is coming. Their first third down scenario in this one. Here's a look at the Spartanburg defensive alignment.
Yeah, nose guard, big guys, got to be a player tonight. Kamarian Davis is 6'3", 300, but a linebacker Carter Waugh. What are 3 new linebackers into the secondary. The right corner is Christian Davis, and he's got a couple of interceptions and one of the few that return on that side of the ball.
10 new starters for Spartanburg on defense, just 4 seniors on the defensive side for the Vikings. Here's a third down for Gaffney after the takeaway on the interception, and here's Boughton's other threat. Not only can he do some damage with the arm, also has the wheels. There is a flag down at around the 22-yard line as he scampers on into the end zone. The Indians are celebrating as if they've taken the lead, but hold everything as our referee kicks around some laundry at right around the 22.
Well, that is what he brings to the table. 6'2", 205 senior, can throw the ball, but he adds that running element that they really haven't had from a consistent standpoint this year.
What they tell us, 4.5 40 for him. He'll have to show it to you again if it's going to be a touchdown for Gaffney on this drive, because that one is coming back. The holding penalty negates the touchdown run. Here's a look at it, Tom.
And you see him get up inside there, and I mean, if you got to get him to the ground, you can't go high there. Big guy, and you know, as he settles in a little bit more, kind of split it the first couple of ball games and has settled in the last two, and particularly last time out, throwing the ball and running the ball effectively in the win over Bowling Spring.
Third down now from behind the sticks. Gaffney will need the 18-yard line to pick up a first. This time has to work through some trouble. Now throws this up top and too much air underneath it. Incomplete. Fourth down coming for Gaffney. Well, you mentioned that Bowling Springs game the last time out. That's where Gaffney felt like they put everything together. You could see the strength of his arm here and his elusiveness, and boy, you saw his ability on that run a moment ago, but the Indians won't have anything from it on this drive. That's where it all seemed to click for Gaffney that game last week against Bowling Springs.
Well, it did, and you know, they struggled a little bit in that game against Greenville, a 17-14 loss. Of course, they played Independence out of North Carolina, the number 7 team in North Carolina right now, number 4 in 7A, and you know, they put it together, and they're getting better as the season's gone on.
Obviously, in this territory, you got options, and on fourth down, Gaffney will decide to go for it from the 30, and the defense for Spartanburg says not so much. There's Jordan Hale Atkins getting in there. One of those players who played for the Vikings a year ago, but is in an expanded role this time around. The senior embraces.
Yeah, coming off the defensive end, got underneath the blocker there and put pressure on. Looked left, wasn't there, had to scramble. Boy, what a job defensively. Flag was a really big one there that wiped out the touchdown.
Brought the touchdown back, and Spartanburg gets off the field with a turnover on downs. That's the question mark for Spartanburg tonight. Can the Vikings get off the field defensively with this young D, give their offense a chance? Let's walk through our keys to the game. Tom, walk us through what it's going to take to be successful.
All right, you establish the run if you're Gaffney. They're getting set to do that, and they want to keep number 40 in check. We talked about Trenton Lynch a moment ago.
Speaking of, here's the first real look tonight. Trenton Lynch going to make it interesting inside the 40, and he's going to be rushed out of bounds at the 36-yard line. Well, you can on cue see why it's a key to try and contain big number 40.
Yeah, you can see it here early on in the game. They got him out of the perimeter a little bit, but once he breaks the tackle, he's into the secondary. Limit the big plays for Spartanburg. They need to finish. We talked about losing 2 of the last 3 late in the game, and a kicking game will make a difference in this one for Spartanburg.
Those are your Spartanburg Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram keys to the game. Tonight's keys brought to you by Spartanburg Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram. And boy, you couldn't have dialed it up any better in terms of what you were talking about, Tom, and what Spartanburg must do well, and what we've already seen from the Vikings on this drive. It resulted in a First Franklin Financial first down. Now quickly, with the pace in this one grabbing your attention, to a third down, and they're going to call it about 8, and time going to be stopped just a moment as the officials blow everything dead. They were working with Spartanburg's wide receiver Davis on the far side. That's a Spartanburg name if ever there was one, right?
Yes.
You're going to have that name once or twice, and we'll hear about the history of it before the day is done. But in this case, it's Torian Davis, the senior, who comes trotting back this direction, and now everybody's ready to go. Down marker said third. Thought there was just one play run, and that had to be awful fast. It is third down, a second down, I should say, after we walk through the keys. And on the slant, the catch is made. There's Zeke Bell Boyd, a senior wideout, one of 4 wide receivers Spartanburg will utilize regularly tonight. Guess what? That's another First Franklin Financial first down, and puts them in the First Bank red zone. Try that 5 times tonight.
I know, it's like a final exam in broad.
Gotta love it. Thanks to our sponsors, First Bank, the sponsors of our red zone. And here's Lynch, not going to receive the give. Guess who? Burke calls his own number, and he's maybe to the 12-yard line. We'll see where they actually spot this. That's good first down yardage. Both teams with some positive things happening quickly here, Tom.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, it was a great job to keep them out of the end zone after the penalty came back. One of the things you worried about to a certain extent was the ability of Spartanburg's defense to slow down this offense as they wanted to establish the run. Figured that Spartanburg could put some points on the board, but a good start for the defense as well.
Lynch up the middle, and he's inside the 10 down to the 7. That's going to be good for another First Franklin Financial first down. Going to be first and goal now for the Spartanburg Vikings as they go deeper into Gaffney territory.
Yeah, you hand it up inside there. I mean, we saw his ability to bounce it outside, and you've got to go low. If you go high, he's liable to bounce off the guard after contact.
Trenton Lynch was on a pitch count, Mark Hodge termed it. It's time of year for that, right?
Yes.
Baseball playoffs coming up. He was on a pitch count early. They wanted to limit his touches. He said now that we're to the games that really matter, it's going to be in his hands early and often, a lot more often in these games that count in the pursuit of a championship. They opt to go to the air here, try to swing a pass out near side, and though that is caught by Keenan, Gaffney had defensive players right there.
Yeah, Kareem Shaw, the corner off that side. They had it bottled up inside as well. I think that was a backwards pass, so it would have been live if he dropped it.
So they do maintain possession of the football inside the 10. It goes on the give to Lynch again. Lynch is a special back, Tom. The word that Mark Hodge used in referring him, Coach Hodge said legit. And boy, have we seen that from him in his prep career here at Spartanburg.
You know, if you average 10.6 yards per carry, you're going to get a lot of those first downs that you were talking about it as well. So that's why when we talked with Coach Littlejohn earlier this week, you know, one of the keys is to try to slow down if you can, number 40.
Bigger the game, the more he's going to touch the football. Those were the words of the Spartanburg staff. Go to the skies here. Caught Ferguson. He caught the first pass of the night. He has the initial touchdown of this football game. As Kevion Ferguson reels it in for a Spartanburg lead. There's our first South Carolina Army National Guard touchdown of the night.
Well, great response after the defense got the job done, following the penalty that called the touchdown back. And I mean, that one laid right on the line, and Ferguson able to make that catch and take it in for a touchdown. So nice response there after the defense got it done.
That touchdown again sponsored by the South Carolina National Guard. Can't say enough good things about those who serve our country, and the nights like this they provide. They've done it for generations, making sure you and I can enjoy moments to remember like the one you're witnessing here. Spartanburg with their initial moment of the contest, a touchdown toss to Ferguson from Burke, and the Vikings lead early. Carolina Furniture Concepts is a presenting sponsor of Friday Night Rivals. They have over $5 million of furniture in stock and ready to be delivered to you. Visit their Arden and Waynesville showrooms or go online at carolinafurnitureconcepts.com. Well, it's for the right to start 2-0 in the region, and the Spartanburg Vikings like the early returns. 60 yards traveled in just under 3 minutes, 2:52 to be specific, and on a 9-yard connection from Burke to Ferguson, Spartanburg has a 7-0 advantage.
Yeah, nice job there, and if you're Gaffney, had that penalty called back the touchdown, been able to get pressure and get the ball at the 40-yard line, able to utilize the run, bounced it outside, ran inside with Lynch, who has 600 and plus yards rushing this year for his team, and then able to utilize the pass for the touchdown.
First time you see one of the best kickers in the country, Will Love, from a kickoff scenario after Spartanburg received the opening kick, and he showed you his leg strength on display as he punches this well through the end zone. Of course, you know the Love family already sending one to Virginia Tech. He had been committed to the Hokies. We'll see what his future in essence holds. But number 96, Tom, he is a game changer in the kicking game.
Well, how about 25 kickoffs now this year, and 14 of them have been touchbacks. Field position is incredible. He punts. He averages about 40 plus per yard, 41 yards per punt. So he's done it all.
Will Love is a difference maker, the Spartanburg kicker. They have the quarterback, the talented back who you saw there, the kicker on the offensive side. This is a team certainly coming into its own with plenty of weapons, and they lead at 7-0. Here's Gaffney's Banks. Boughton back to work. And he'll give off. He'll try to find some room. There will be none. Good job by the Spartanburg defensive front. No real gain on first down. What are your takeaways from that Spartanburg drive a moment ago?
Well, they were able to utilize the pass, and also not only did Lynch go up inside between the tackles, but able to get him out on the edge. They tried a couple of other different things and got it out of the perimeter. That was defended very well, but they mixed it up and did a really good job, I thought, with utilizing the pass and the rush. And they will do that. 56% rush and 44% on the
Hello. Take a look at this reaction and response. On time. What a job to drive back the Gaffney intended target. Take a look at this and arriving on the scene. What a job there defensively, Tom.
Yeah, Jans McCree, 5'7", 158 sophomore. Talked about a young team that the Spartanburgers have.
You're back in your baseball.
I'm back in my baseball.
These are the Vikings. Everybody knows that. Here we go. Third down. We all know that down across the 20 it goes to the 22 and up to the 25-yard line. That's where it'll be carried by Boughton this time around. But you're right. You know, you think about how young they are, Tom, to your point. But look at the fire with which they are playing. And he said, you know, the ceiling of this team has as much to do with how quickly this young group grows up as anything else. Well, a couple of opportunities to get off the field so far, and so far so good is the answer from the Vikings.
Well, and you look at what Gaffney was able to do last week against Bowling Springs. Offensively, they really put it together, and now they place themselves in a difficult situation where they got to put the football away again.
Santana into the contest for the Indians, but there's a flag down before he can boot it away at the 4:50 mark opening period. Indians came up empty after the interception by Ty McGill, though they threatened, actually put it in the end zone, but had a flag bring back the touchdown run from Boughton. Spartanburg went to work. 60-yard drive initiated by Burke, capped with the Ferguson touchdown reception, on which much of the heavy lifting was done by Trenton Lynch, and it's a 7-0 game. Now, that was 4th down and 5, and the penalty flag will take all those things we just said about the nice job Spartanburg did getting off the field.
Wow.
And move the chains. The penalty proves costly, and the Indians will send their offense back out.
Yeah, that is a big call right there, because you're going to get the football back. And Mark Hodge not happy about that at all.
Yeah, take a
I'm
look
not
at his
quite
reaction.
sure what it was.
Well, and that goes back to that conversation you were just having. This is a young team getting off the field and keeping this talented offense on the field. The key for how deep this Vikings team, with designs on a championship season, can go this year. Boughton fakes the give. They're staying right with him, and he is swallowed up by Vikings. Whole ship of Vikings right there at the 30-yard line to swallow him up.
Yeah, so far, I tell you, the defense is really getting after it. And you look at it on the year, they give up 33.5 per ball game. So it's been tough in that category. But I tell you, this pursuit there, outstanding.
Gathered and upright on the crescent moon at the 30-yard line, where that Palmetto State logo reminds you that you are watching two of the premier powers in the history of one of the great states for high school football. 4:07 and ticking downward to go in the opening period. And the seas parted up across the 40. That's a First Franklin Financial first down to the top of that Viking logo, as digging for every inch of real estate is Josiah Hill.
Yeah, tough to bring down, up inside 5'11", 218, and he bounces off and yards after contact. He's a transfer from Kings Mountain. They have 4 that start on offense and 4 that start on defense that have transferred in this year.
Came over from the battle-worthy area of Kings Mountain, North Carolina. They call him a pleasant surprise. And that run, certainly what Gaffney was looking for. Set up another First Franklin Financial first down, but this one's tossed aside by Boughton and incomplete.
Yeah, that's a good decision there. Nothing was there. Rolling left, short side of the field. Just throw it away. The old cliche, live to play another down. Don't try to force something there. And hey, so far, defensively, Spartanburg have gotten after it.
Boughton has been under pressure from the get-go. And you look historically at Gaffney, the size on that offensive line, the time they can give their QB, always a factor as they go to work. But the push Spartanburg is getting up front. Grabbing the headlines right now. Vikings push the pile back once more, and it's going to be 3rd down from well behind the sticks.
Well, and Jason, that's a key there. You talked about pushed it back, because that was one of the situations that you thought maybe with the big offensive line. C.J. Brooks, 336, that right tackle for Gaffney. They're big up front, a little bit undersized, the Vikings, but they've done a nice job with that initial push on the forward wall.
So 3rd down and the 44-yard line on the Spartanburg side of the field. But Gaffney will need to move the chains. Throwing back against his body. It's set up beautifully. The one block needed is there, and the Indians have a 1st down. Inside the Spartanburg 40. And a move of the chains. Let's take a look at how the quarterback sells this.
He sold it. That's exactly where I was headed. And look at the big fella out front, man. Nicely done there to provide opportunity. That's Scotland over at 6'4", 289, the senior, making a play out there on the edge to help him get a few more yards.
Ended up springing Joe Bauman enough to get the 1st down. Bauman, an individual who has been among those, along with Hank Davidson and some others that have been in that supporting role. And Coach Littlejohn likes to talk about the pleasant surprises. He's been another one of them. This is going to be tossed near side, but incomplete. And the clock at 2:23. 1st quarter belonging to Spartanburg thus far, but Gaffney on the march at the 36. Here's another look at this toss.
Yeah, wanted to initially fire. It wasn't there, and then, just threw it away and out of bounds. I think some good decisions there. Wasn't there. Couldn't fit it into the sideline.
2nd down and 10 coming for Banks Boughton and company. Boughton, you've talked a couple of times about how he really got it going last week. Had a couple of touchdowns, 200 yards passing, also rushed for a touchdown last week. And really his coming into his own moment for Gaffney as the team became his against the Boiling Springs Bulldogs. But different story tonight against another Spartanburg County foe, and that's because of what the front of the defensive group for Spartanburg has been able to do. Flying in there once again, that's Carter Waugh, among others, the senior who helped seal that up. Filling up your screen, that's Jordan Hill Atkins again, whose name we've called more than once early in this one.
Yeah, really good job. Other than the one big run that we saw a moment ago by Hill, they did a good job at the point of attack.
Atkins and Cohen, the two guys that played a lot last year, now in a starting role. Here's the pressure again, and he is swallowed up. How about the job on the last 2 plays for Jordan Hill Atkins, who would not be denied on the sack of Boughton?
I mean, there's nothing there to begin with on the outside, and he's got to scramble. And, man, coming off that backside, Waugh was with him as well. So up front, anyway, really getting after it. So the penalty provided opportunity for Gaffney at least to move it down the field a little bit here. And they're going to punt it on this one.
You know how much Coach loves a sack on 3rd down. Well, you got to be careful. Both these coaches like to keep those offenses on the field from time to time. Gaffney will on 4th and a country mile. Going to be the 26-yard line needed for the Indians. And ahead of this 4th down play, timeout is taken with 1:03 to go in the quarter. Perhaps a consequential 4th down coming up when you return to Spartan High. Don't let game night dinner get you stressed. Stop by Ingles for great choices from the Ingles Deli, rotisserie chicken, freshly made salads, and a delicious hot bar and sub bar. Dinner and a snap, then it's off to the game. Ingles, low prices, love the savings. The 110th meeting between the Gaffney Indians and the Spartanburg Vikings. Gaffney leads the series 54-52 with 3 that they couldn't quite settle, dating all the way back to over 100 years ago when they first started gathering up these two fan bases and these two communities for this rivalry. And Tom, always comes down to moments like this. Gaffney leaves the offensive unit on the field for 4th down. This is going to be 4th down and 21. The Indians need the 26 on the other side. You thought perhaps this was in the tool chest. It will be a kick after all, and the Gaffney coverage team will see to it this is blown dead inside the 1-yard line. So they're going to force the Vikings to go 99 on a perfect punt handled by Boughton. Well, you talked about how he could throw, how he could run. He also shows you right here he's pretty good in the punt game.
Yeah, really good coverage there. You pretty much thought that's probably what was going to happen there, and boy, executed beautifully. So the bottom line was, if you go all the way back how that started, was you're going to have to punt and get good field position. Now you got to start the 1-yard line.
Now Mark Hodge is standing by with our officials talking this over. He wants to know, was there any chance at all that broke the plane of the end zone for a touchback? And this is a huge call right now. You're talking about Spartanburg down at the 1 and the Gaffney defense able to pin its ears back, or a touchback which gives some room. It looks like they have talked about it, still place the football down at the 1-yard line, and that's where Spartanburg will take over.
Yeah, field position huge in this, because we talked so much about Will Love and what he brings to the table for the Vikings, and that was a nice job there by Boughton, and good coverage to make sure it didn't go in. And now if your defense can bow up a little bit here, you can hopefully get it back in pretty good field position.
Well, they went 60 on the touchdown drive. They'll have to go a lot further this time, 99 yards away from pay dirt, as Burke starts with his feet in his own end zone. And that was nearly picked off as it was batted down in the heart of that Gaffney D. There's Zion Ratchford. He was selected to the North-South game. He's an all-star in his own right, and the Mike linebacker nearly snatched away a game changer.
I'll tell you, good job there. What he did, he came in, he read it, he backed up, and he was able to knock it down.
He's an ECU commit. He and Peanut Bailey, as they call him, side by side over there, the heartbeat of this Gaffney defense, and moments like that show you why, Tom.
Yeah, I tell you, that's a great play there, and they're a team that has gotten better defensively, and ran into some, we talked about non-conference scheduling for both of these teams, but he definitely is one of those that McGill, we've seen him get the interception, and Kadarius Bailey, their linebacking crew is very good.
Gaffney trying to make the punt pay off with 22 seconds left on the first quarter game clock. Here comes the 3rd down as the defense looks to get off the field. Spartanburg leading at 7-0, and they may allow this to go all the way down so they can talk about their 3rd down options. That certainly is an option for the Vikings here. It appears that's exactly what will take place. This will bring us to the end of the first quarter. They will switch sides and begin to work from the other end zone in this 110th meeting between the Vikings and the Indians, with the home team leading at 7-0 after 1. Well, at the end of this second period, we will have the Spartanburg Community College halftime show. You'll learn a lot more about both these programs, and that's what they are, the success these two teams and their communities have had over the years. All part of the Spartanburg Community College halftime show. We thank our friends at Spartanburg Community College for sponsoring the halftime show. Here is the first play of the second period coming. Good crowd making the trip over from Gaffney despite some of the rain early. Nice crowd filing in for Spartanburg here tonight. It's third down, and Burke's going to go to the air, incomplete, just a little bit too tall. Why not go back to Ferguson? He has the lone touchdown catch in the football game, but it's too tall and incomplete. The Indians will get off the field. Here comes the kicking unit. Tom, a couple of numbers to pass along. Just over 20 yards of total offense for Gaffney to this point. Spartanburg 85, of course 60 of those coming on the touchdown drive, which stands as the difference.
Yeah, there were a couple of losses there and sacks that took some yardage off of Gaffney. So what's going to happen here is what they wanted with the pooch kick. They get out of it, had a man open, just missed him there, and should get pretty good field position, but that's the operative word, is you get a good look there at Will Love that Jason's talked about. He averages 41 yards per kick on 11 so far this year.
Well, and you see the return man for Gaffney standing back there as well. That's Brady Smith, baseball kid, who also handles the long return responsibilities. And this goes straight up, end over end, and that's going to be out of bounds. Actually, it's going to bounce back in. Looked like it was destined for the Spartanburg sideline. Maybe another yard or so on the hop, but just the 32. So another short field for Gaffney, something they thought they had taken advantage of earlier, but have not been able to do so just yet, Tom.
Yeah, another opportunity here inside Viking territory, and rare miss hit there by Love provides them with a very good opportunity here to get on the board.
Boughton 2 for 5 through the air, and is looking at negative yardage so far on the ground after that long run was called back. And Tom, not only that, but you look at the sacks beginning to mount up a little bit. It's been the work of the Spartanburg D, as you said, the difference maker in this one. And he's going to roll to his right just a bit, fires over the middle, and that is incomplete. That really, to me, is one of the emerging storylines of this football game right now. The pressure that Spartanburg has been able to get that young defense, and particularly the front, on the Gaffney QB.
Yeah, and he unloads it there. Good one-on-one coverage there, a little bit overthrown, and a nice job defensively. Santel Hall there back defending as well.
Gaffney had it for over 7 minutes of that first quarter. Spartanburg has the only 7 points on the board as we finish up a few of the numbers for you from the first quarter of action. Freshly underway in the second period. Boughton gathers that up with one hand. Right-handed QB sees plenty of real estate. He's got a first down. Move the chains. That's going to be our initial first down of the second quarter. We remind you that our first downs, whether they come from Gaffney, whether they come from Spartanburg, all our first downs brought to you by Greenville Awning, our sponsor of the first downs in the second quarter and the fourth quarter later tonight. Here's the result of the run, a Greenville Awning first down.
Well, he has that ability, talking about Banks Bowden, when there is nothing available. We've seen him go the distance for a touchdown that was called back. Good gain there.
Keeping it on the ground in the Greenville Awning first down play. Custom shade solutions for businesses and homes in South Carolina. That's the Greenville Awning Company, proudly serving you. And look at how they're fighting for every inch of real estate down there right now, Tom.
Yeah, Josiah Hill, we talked about 5'11", 218. Lowers the pants there and get a couple of extra yards and trying to get into the end zone here early in the second.
What will Gaffney do with this First Bank red zone opportunity? 23 locations across Western North Carolina and South Carolina to serve you. The First Bank red zone. The Indians in it once more. Looking for a score that would knot things up here in the second quarter. Taking plenty of time. Boughton checking that wristband now. Moves a couple of guys location-wise. And here's the give, left side, plenty of traffic, still fighting is Hill, and he's dragging him with him all the way to the goal line. A flag comes out, and touchdown is the call. So they raise their hands to indicate TD. At the same time, a flag is dropped on the goal line, and plenty must be sorted out here to determine whether it's a 7-6 contest. What'd you see, Tom?
We've seen this before with a flag on a run for a touchdown. Let's see who it's against, though, first.
No flag, waved it off. Yep. It was interesting. The official who dropped the flag is the official who signaled touchdown first on this near side. At the end, they're going to wave it off, and you've got the initial touchdown run of the night for Josiah Hill, and he'll pull Gaffney within one. Pending the extra point, it'll be tied after the South Carolina National Guard TD from the Indians.
Able to take it in there, and a tough to bring down once he gets going. 218. Got that momentum going, so able to take advantage of a short punt there and a short drive to get it tied.
Santana's kick is good, and the Indians have equalized. 7 apiece on the board as Gaffney this time makes use of the short field, capping it with a Josiah Hill drag him on into the end zone touchdown run. Well, it's a nice night for a big smile, and with a touchdown on the board on both sides, why not? Our Smile Cam brought to you by Nth Degree Orthodontics. That's the Nth Degree Orthodontics Smile Cam. You know, I got brighter smiles than Owen family. Nth Degree Orthodontics, proud sponsors of our Smile Cam tonight, and they'll make sure you have plenty to smile about and the right smile to go with it. Indians fans making the trip over, the short trip over from Cherokee County, they're smiling after that short field worked out, Tom. And that was quite an impressive run to cap it for Josiah Hill. It put the finishing touches on a 32-yard drive that took 96 seconds, a minute 36. It was an 11-yard run to make it 7 apiece with 10:13 to play. And the most impressive part of that run is he said, hop on, boys, I'll take you with me.
Yeah, 218, 5'11", strong, able to run it up inside. And once you get a couple of strides going, and we talked about maybe sometimes a little bit undersized for the Vikings, but able to take it into the end zone.
Spartanburg feign a return, but this is going to go over the head of the return man, and it will be a touchback. So much better field position for Spartanburg than last time around, just bring it out of the end zone. You remember the catalyst for that in many ways was the Boughton punt, which put Spartanburg on the 1. That's where the field position was one that Gaffney eventually was able to take advantage of. So the Vikings got to feel pretty good here, Tom, about having much more breathing room.
Yeah, they do, and you even backtrack a little bit farther, and they were ready to punt the ball away. Gaffney, then there was a penalty that provided the opportunity for them to get it near midfield. Defense did a good job to force that little pooch kick, but got it down to the 1, and field position been big time here in the first half.
Spartanburg team looking to discover tonight. You always do when you go head-to-head between Gaffney and Spartanburg, what they're made of, what the future can look like, who are the playmakers that are going to step up on both sides. On this occasion, it's Zion Dawkins for the Indians. He's a sophomore. He's got offers from Virginia Tech and other places already. Number 21, the Fox on this defense, as they call it, making his presence known.
Yeah, 5'10", 178, and we'll see him with return game as well. And, you know, behind the sticks right now after nice defensive play.
It's going to be tossed. That's Davis, and Davis, plenty of white jerseys there to cover him up. And it's going to be third still behind the sticks, even though he may have wrestled himself loose for perhaps a yard.
Yeah, you see the pressure coming that way, and just outnumbered over that way, and able to pursue and make that play, and able to get in there was Mickles, Chance and Mickles.
Nice little crop of receivers if they can work their way loose. Torian Davis, Kendorian Keenan, Zeke Bell Boyd, and of course you've seen Kevion Ferguson already. But this is a weapon too. Burt can do some damage on the ground, and he's up across the 25, just past the 25-yard line. Trouble for Spartanburg was his starting point that time, so it's still going to be 4th and about 5 from the 25.
Yeah, you've got to think that is going to be a weapon at some point. Doesn't run all that much the first couple of games. He's just getting back and healthy, but with all the attention on him.
And Mark Hodge telling us it may be more of a weapon moving forward. Part of the reason for that, he's getting healthy. And they're going to open that up a little more as they get deeper into this. And they're going to have to on this stretch. I mean, Spartanburg has a brutal schedule stretch coming up. Obviously, it starts here tonight, but they play all 3 of their Spartanburg County rivals in succession here after just a 1-week hiatus prior. And, you know, this is the stretch that's going to make or break Mark Hodge's team. And watching them across the next few weeks in this critical stretch, going to tell you a lot about what these Vikings are made of. They're toe-to-toe with the Gaffney Indians tonight, 7 apiece with 8:06 to play in the second. Bojangles is a proud sponsor of WLOS Friday Night Football. It's not just football season, it's tailgate season. Head to Bojangles and order the tailgate box today. It's not a tailgate without Bojangles. It's bow time. A couple of teams that first met in the 1920s. They weren't around. We weren't around. But boy, it's been passed down from generation to generation. If you went to bed with stories of, you know, Steve Davis on one side, Robert Hardy on the other, you think about some of the great recent playmakers that have made their mark on these two rivalries. It really is one of the great showcases in the Palmetto State every time they get together. November 6th, the first time they met back in the 20s, Tom, 14-0 Gaffney. 27-24 last year. Indians, as you said, as they sort this penalty flag out, winners of the last how many now?
8 in a row.
8 in a row.
Yeah.
So that's something Spartanburg's trying to change. And of course, Mark Hodge said to us, let's sit in a different chair. Let's try a little bit of a different terminology, whatever we need to do, because his team has been right there on the verge the last several years. In fact, had the game in many ways command of it at Gaffney a year ago, and the Indians pulled out one of those trademark wins at the reservation. And his team right now, Mark Hodge that is, seeing good work from this young D. They go back to work here. They'll get a little help as that's in and out of the hands of the intended target, but they have Gaffney behind the sticks again. And I was leading all that into this statement, Tom, that the defense for Spartanburg, although perhaps not this particular play, when you look at it on the whole, the defense for Spartanburg among the headliners tonight.
Yeah, so far so good. We talked about Spartanburg has given up 33.5 per game this year, but a young team, relatively new, 10 new on defense, and they've hung in there against a Gaffney team that put 34 on the board last week against Bowling Springs.
Couple of short fields, and only the one time that they allowed the touchdown the last time around, the hill run. This is going to be Gaffney's QB, and he'll weave through some traffic. How about the job he did to elude the first couple of tacklers? And he's going to make third down manageable here. It's going to be third and about 6 or 7, depending upon where they spot it, where it was second and well over 15.
Yeah, that's a really good play. If we do get a look at it again, what he did, if he continues to go wide and laterally, he's probably only going to get about 2, but he turned it back inside, and he's got good size at 6'2", 205, a senior. Broke a tackle, and much needed, pretty good gain there to bring up third and manageable here.
They are going to call it third down and a long 6. They need the 40-yard line. to the Gaffney Indians. They'll have it up across the 40 to the 45 and out near midfield at the 50-yard line. How about the nature of this back? Here's Gaffney giving us a look at Justin Dawkins. Dawkins, a kid who came back over from Chapman now in his senior campaign. He provides a different wrinkle from the ground and pound of Josiah Hill.
He's still, 5'5", 195 senior, and you mentioned it transferred back in from Chapman there in a little different dimension. Got the first down.
Wait a minute, there's a connection to Chapman in this game, right?
There is.
The guy roaming that Spartanburg sideline did some really good work at Chapman over the years. Mark Hodge turned them into a power.
How about 82 and 26, won 47 of his last 49 championships in 2016, 2019, and second in 2017. That's not bad.
Pretty impressive. The guys he put in pro ball, guys like Debo Samuel, and on down the line it goes. Grab your attention. Of course, you know the history of that Chapman program goes back to the Doc Davis and Toby Cates days. One of our good friends who, helped lay the foundation, and Mark Hodge, a guy out of that Doc Davis coaching tree, now leading his Vikings to the charge here at Doc Davis Field, the field that bears the name of one of the great legends in South Carolina football. And you can't help but see these uniforms on a night like this and not invoke the images in the minds of those type scenarios, Tom.
Yeah, I tell you, Doc Davis Field, and remarkable what was accomplished in the 90s. Here you're talking about 6 state championships, and a lot of them in the 90s, and at one point won 37 consecutive games.
And that Chapman connection so strong, and the Mark Hodge coming over from Chapman now 6 years here. Can you believe that, at Spartan High? And he believes he's got a team that, again, can make something happen in 2025 if this young group grows up and is able to make another one of those deep runs into the playoffs. Saw them grow up, even after that Gaffney contest a year ago. Here's the third down play, and that's inside. Tried to set up a screen, but it's incomplete, and it's going to be fourth down coming up. Well, a reminder, this is our stop of the game, and we'll have a little more extensive look at our stop of the game later on in tonight's contest. We always select our school bus stop of the game during the fourth quarter. That's because it's a law in every state that you stop for the school bus when the stop arm is out and the red lights are flashing. Our school bus stop of the game, much like the stop you just saw, will be selected before tonight is done. He talking about the growth of Spartanburg. He said, you got to remember, you talk about that 17-point flip in the fourth quarter against Gaffney. He said 2 weeks later in the playoffs, the lesson was learned. They did respond against Burns, and that showed some of the development of this football team. He needs to see and is looking to see that same type of growth from this young football team. You got to believe he's somewhat pleased with what he sees tonight. His team locked into a fight with the Indians. It's 7 apiece in the second. Well, we're moments away now from the Spartanburg Community College halftime show. Spartanburg Community College doing such a nice job educating folks in this part of the world, and you'll learn more about both these schools as well as Spartanburg Community College coming up as a part of the halftime show. Much to talk about at the half here, Tom, as both these teams have taken advantage of a single drive thus far, locked into a 7-7 ball game. As you can see, Working our way through the middle stages, 6:05 to go.
There's that band. They were
second quarter. Hey, they were doing some good work earlier, right?
Yeah, we're always here early. They were here early, too.
Part of the pageantry of high school football. They kept the drums and everything dry through the earlier rain. Now ready to entertain the fans here at Vikings Stadium. Burke going to be rushed out of bounds after, well, getting back to the line of scrimmage, but it looks like they're actually going to mark him at the 24, about a yard shy of it. Going to be 2nd down and 11. Your thoughts on the work of Trey Burke so far in this one of the experienced quarterbacks in the region?
We saw early on his ability to throw the football, mix it up a little bit. He has that ability. Hasn't really getting back and returning from an injury standpoint, but big 6'3", 207 senior. They think that that can be part of the game, but Zion Dawkins has done a nice job from the corner. He came up and forced him to the sidelines, and not much game. Actually, a loss of 1 there.
Talked about how important this is for Spartanburg tonight because of what's coming. Burke looking for some momentum as he goes near side and reaching up, trying to make something happen. Was Keenan, but that's out of his reach and incomplete. Tom, Wade Hampton next week. Coach Wright trying to get some things started over there as you get one more look at this incomplete pass as they tried to connect on it down the far side. But it's after that that it really heats up. They get Dorman, Burns, and Bowling Springs back to back to back. That's a make or break stretch for Spartanburg, and he's trying to jumpstart his team on a night like this.
Yeah, I tell you, it is. It's an interesting mix when we'll get into it a little bit later on as far as the region and the teams that are in it.
Well, you got to love what Mark Hodge told us. He said, you know, it can get real psychological in a stretch like that across the next month or so. So you want to make sure you keep everybody's mind where it needs to be and their attention where it needs to be. And, you know, like a night like tonight can certainly help with that as his team tries to make something happen here. There's a flag to sort out ahead of this play, and they're going to back the Vikings up.
I think it's intentional grounding, and I know we're going to argue this, but I don't think it got past the line of scrimmage as he was backpedaling.
You can't blame him for trying to get in there and plead his case.
No.
But our referee's walking away, and that's never a very good sign. Let's see what
wave it off.
The officials are going to do with this. They're going to bring it back where it was. So whatever he said seemed to work out. Although 4th down is coming, and you know what that means. Kicking unit coming as well. Here's another look at it.
Yeah, straight back under pressure. If anybody's in the area there.
Well, that pressure made all the difference for Gaffney that time defensively.
I've been a bit of a break there, maybe. Still, got a punt.
Well, timeout again. Let's see if this is an actual timeout taken or just another brief stoppage. Looks like this is going to be timeout. Both teams headed to their respective sidelines. But, you know, this is an important stretch for Spartanburg on that side of the coin. You flip over to the other side, an important night for Donnie Littlejohn, the first-year head coach of the Gaffney Indians. It's his first head-to-head meeting as the head man. He knows a lot about this rivalry. He played at Gaffney. He was a longtime administrator and offensive coordinator for Dan Jones, who just wrapped up his career a year ago at Gaffney. So here's a guy who is a Gaffney Indian through and through. But tonight, he gets to introduce his brand of Gaffney football to this fan base against Spartanburg for the very first time.
Yeah, 16 years offensive coordinator, 24 years it all played at Furman. In our conversation before, said, yeah, he played in a lot of these games. And, you know, back in the day before this brand new facility there, had played in a couple of different places, including over at Waltham.
His whole career at Gaffney, his dad, a wide receiver for Bob Pravat back in the 70s. You invoke that name, that's saying something. The legendary Gaffney coach, whose statue, by the way, they just moved near the reservation after it was moved from limestone in recent days. But his family connections there in Gaffney run deep. The first-year head coach looking on as his team will get the football back here. His return man will let this roll, and boy, does it take a roll. Then scoops it up and around the 25. And making something out of nothing here, it would seem. But all that running just going to get him to the 20, or the 31, I should say, yard line. So maybe a handful secured back. They'll spot it at the 31, and that's where Donnie Littlejohn's Gaffney Indians will take over on the other side of the break. Spartanburg knotted up with the Gaffney Indians 7 apiece, 5:20 as we welcome you back to Spartanburg County, one of the great facilities in all of high school football. You could say in the state of South Carolina, but you really could say anywhere in the world, Tom. This is one of the great venues from which to witness games just like this, and they know a little bit about winning here at Spartan High.
Yeah, you take a look at the state champion there, and you go back to 2014. That was 4A Division II. Chris Miller got it then.
He was on the Gaffney staff up until last season, a part of the defense. I mean, of course, built Burns along with Bobby Bentley into a power. Spartanburg County football impacted through and through by some of those names that we throw out. We were talking about it ahead of the break, is that Spartanburg defense rises tall again here, that Gaffney's under the direction of a new head coach, Donnie Littlejohn. He, as you mentioned, played at Furman, and Malcolm Long, the athletic director, and a player for him, now kind of overseeing this portion of his career. He had a great story on that in his Furman days. He said, you know, when I was a player at Furman, he said, somehow my shoes would end up out of my closet and into Malcolm Long's closet because he was such a, you know, an athlete growing into his own at that time as the Gaffney quarterback, who went on in his own right to South Carolina State, now the AD there at Gaffney. But, you know, those connections are strong. They're through and through. We'll get in before the night is done to who all is on the staff, but he retained a good portion of the staff, brought in a couple of coordinators, and is putting his fingerprints on this Gaffney program. As the head man, he said, you know, been here, but the head coaching part of it, a lot different. And he's embracing that, a night like that important for him for the first time in this rivalry. Here's a good call. You know, he was the offensive coordinator for years, making the play calls. Got some help in that department now, but this is a nice one dialed up because it's going to move the chains. A first down secured by Gaffney here. That's yet another Greenville awning first down.
Yeah, Brady Smith makes that catch. 5'8", 145 senior, 8, 152, a touchdown. 19 per catch coming in. I think that was a big one to continue to get this drive and wind down the stretch here in the first half.
But you talk about those names as the first down play is swallowed up. You know, Malcolm Long and Coach Littlejohn, you know, their dad's deacons together in the same church. So it speaks to how deep those connections run. And the staff was already deep. So he kept so many of those guys that were on the staff with him, but brought in a couple of guys with a few wrinkles. You know, he called it, and talking about bringing in offensive coordinator Brad Van Horn, a little razzle-dazzle perhaps that he'll try to add here. Guy who was selected as the coordinator of the year at South Point a year ago, and now has come to the play-calling role at Gaffney. He said it'll help with a little razzle-dazzle bringing a guy like that in.
He talked about the matchups, and you know, when he was the offensive coordinator, they wanted to run that football established line. They still want to do that, but they may do a little bit more variations off an offensive theme, so
to try to isolate some guys and add that, in his terms, not ours, razzle-dazzle from time to time. He's got the quarterback to try to do some of that. Boughton fires this over the middle. That's caught again, and you saw him just a moment ago reel in a nice one. Here's Brady Smith again. He's quite a weapon for any offensive coordinator to toss it to.
Yeah, I tell you, he bought some time there, and then he's rolling left. He's got to step across and fire that one, and he did, and made sure that he caught that ball under pressure.
Another Greenville awning first down as it moves inside Spartanburg territory to the 44-yard line. Also brought over defensive coordinator Ian Cooper from Myers Park, and his connections to Gardner Webb, but kept so many of the coaches that have been on this staff for some time, as this one is incomplete. You know, Kevin Phillips, now associate head coach. He's been elevated to. This guy's been there a long time. Handles the linebackers. Randy Birch, another familiar name. A former Rock Hill coach, guy who's, as Coach Littlejohn said, is a football mind. He kept coaches McMahon, Hinchcliffe, Allen, Brad Phillips still works with the quarterbacks and running backs, and a host of others that are working with the JV squads and beyond. But it's a mix of the guys he kept there that are Gaffney guys through and through, and the few little wrinkles he's brought in to try to put his fingerprints on this program as that staff has come together. And this is incomplete. You know, you think about the way staffs come together, and Tom, you look over on the Spartanburg side, you know, the success that Mark Hodges had over the years, and this is something that all coaches have to deal with. You know, they come to begin to try to pluck guys off your staff. Let's pluck this individual here and that one there, and maybe he's worthy of being a head guy. But he's been able to surround himself with guys who've had success at the top level as head men themselves. He's put together quite a staff here, and he's maintained that staff, which speaks to the progress that the Vikings continue to make as well.
Yeah, I had a couple of guys move on to Burns and Dorman and other places, new schools that are opening, but really felt very confident about the men that he brought in.
That's a nice play call. It's well executed as well, which is so often what it comes down to. This is caught inside the 30 That's going to be another movement of the chains. A Greenville awning first down for Gaffney, and lining up the targets, this time using the boundary to get the job done. How do you like the way Boughton is tossing it around right now?
Well, he's got the ability to buy some time and find an opening downfield, and from a defensive back standpoint, it's tough to hang on as long as you can. So they haven't been able to run the football all that much, really, since Hill got that touchdown run, but he's been able to air it out a little bit here on this drive.
Speaking of Hill, Spartanburg was waiting for him that time. And this will end up in the Spartanburg bench. Sometimes that means trouble, and flags do, in fact, fly.
Yeah, that's his situation. Josiah Hill, and he stood over the defender there, and that's a pretty easy call right there. I mean, a couple of guys rode him out of bounds, and then he kind of stood there, and that's a tough call right now. It's a big call with 2:29 to go.
Now, one more thought on that. Bryce Smiley, who was the co-coordinator with Randy Birch for Gaffney on the defensive side at one time, now a head coach in his own right. So you're seeing some guys, move on, do some other things. We talked about the head coaches that have come off of his staff and those that are now on it. It's amazing to see how they all come together. But they're involved in the chess match right now of trying to carry a lead into the locker room. And you can see the call is going to go against Gaffney, and here's another look at it for those of you at home.
Yeah, able to stretch it out there. I mean, initial contact, I think it was Wall there was initially on there, and then you see kind of goes into the bench area, and going to cost him some yardage. And penalties have been an issue for really both teams, and one of the things we'll get into as the game goes on throughout the course, they want to limit those. One of them called a touchdown back rover.
Make it a little tougher for Gaffney to try and take its first lead here on this drive, and here's the explanation to the first-year head coach of the Gaffney Indians. Noticed in you standing beside him a little bit earlier, he's a pretty sizable individual too, this guy who played at Furman and was a Gaffney standout, and now is the head man of the Indians, and not only an imposing figure, but an amazing gentleman, one of the great guys that we get a chance to be around. And that's why we bring up all these coaches, and we talk about a guy's going here and he's going there, and this one's added to the staff, because these are gentlemen who devote their lives to this game and this sport and these kids. And it's our pleasure to interact with him along the way. And he's a guy who wants to, what did he tell us? More than anything else, do things the right way. I want to teach my kids on and off the field to do things the right way. These are teachable moments in instances just like this. And, as he's put his staff together and choosing the right way to put his staff together, he's a guy who's had his fingerprints on this program for a long, long time. Now even more so as the head man for Gaffney.
Yeah, do it right was one of the mottos that they had. And these gentlemen are more than football coaches.
Yep, and our pleasure also to interact with them all along the way, and that's the assistants and coordinators and everybody else included. So from way behind the sticks at 2:21 to go in the half, the quarterback's going to rush with it, get some of that yardage back, but third down and long coming, and here's what has become a familiar refrain in recent moments, another flag down, this one down at the 45-yard line.
I think both teams were averaging about 70, 75 yards penalties per game. And the two big ones, that's another one that races a pretty good game there by Boughton, and it'll push it back a little bit more later the first half. Not sure a lot of folks, I mean, that's what's great about what we do is unscripted, and had it at 7-7 here late in the first half. It'd been an entertaining ball game.
Yeah, well, it's close. And, the only thing you and I care about, down to the last snap, give us some excitement, some energy, and let's make it memorable for the fans who came out on a football Friday night. So far, so good to that end. Here's the handoff, and finding a seam down to the 40, but, I mean, this is still going to be third down and well over 20 once it all sorts out, with 2 minutes and change remaining in the opening half of action. One more thing to kind of finish up that note as we've introduced the new Gaffney head coach to you a little bit tonight. Talked about what Mark Hodges built here at Spartanburg. Coach Littlejohn saying one thing about Gaffney, the kids are going to play hard. They're going to do for us as coaches what they're supposed to, and he's got 85%, he told us, legacy players, guys whose dads or granddads or somebody in the family have played there before. So much of that true on the Spartanburg side as well. But he knows Gaffney's going to get everybody's best shot, and he wants to bring to the table the Gaffney way, the right way, and certainly have his kids ready to go night in, night out. They have been here, so have the Vikings. 7-7 it sits with 1:25 to go in the second, and here's a timeout. Actually, going to be delay, and the Indians are going to back it up a little further. So the first signs of what has been a troublesome drive, the Indians going in the wrong direction here after dealing with a short field throughout. You can see that those values going to be forged. Tough situation in these moments as his team now will be called over to the sideline after the delay. So, but you think about the season to this point, Tom, and what it's been for Gaffney. You talked about the win over Easley after the Independence game, that his team was right there. Obviously Greenville, he called it a little bit of a letdown, but said, you know, our kids learned a lot, and boy did they respond last week against Bowling Springs. How about that Bowling Springs reaction? And today, so far tonight, right in the thick of it with their rivals here at Spartanburg. But this 1:20 to go in the half, seems like it's a very important stretch of 80 seconds here for both these teams.
It seems like this drive's been going on for about 30 minutes. It started at the 5:20 mark back at the 31-yard line, and it progressed pretty well until you had the 15-yard penalty. Then you had another assessment of a penalty and delay a game. So they're pushed back now, you know, at the 46-yard line. You still have a minute 20 to go, but you still have a long way to go here on 3rd and 28.
Worth reminding you, because it's been a winding journey to this point with the penalties, they need the 18-yard line for a first down. Indians need the Viking 18 to move the chains, and this is going to be right around the 41-yard line where this one is blown dead. And now with a minute and change remaining, timeout taken, is guess who's thinking about trying to preserve a scoring opportunity now?
Well, and if you think about it now, we saw the pooch kick earlier that was highly successful, but you know, if you were thinking about going for it, I don't think you do, but if you did, you've also got to remember who's on the other side from a kicking standpoint, and with Will Love and the opportunity to maybe drill one through from long range. But we saw it earlier, 4th down in a whole bunch, and tremendous pooch kick down to the 1-yard line. So we'll see how they line up and how they do it here.
Well, just over a minute away from our halftime report. One more reminder for you that our halftime report tonight and throughout our journeys through South Carolina going to be brought to you by Spartanburg Community College. And worth mentioning to you that the Spartanburg Community College halftime report coming your way from Spartan High tonight, across town Dorman next week as Bowling Springs visits Dorman in an all-Spartanburg County battle. Then we go to Gaffney the following week as Burns, another one of those rivalry games, comes to town. It'll be the Burns Rebels, the Gaffney Indians a couple of weeks from now. And that's just a portion of the journeys on Bojangles Friday Night Rivals. But keeping you, we bring that up, keeping you in this highly regarded region 2 here in South Carolina across the next few weeks. You'll learn a little more about it and these two teams on the Spartanburg Community College halftime report in just a bit. We saw this earlier. Going to work out okay this time. Not the 1-yard line this go round, but the pooch kick ends up sending it down to the 14, and that's where the Vikings will take over. Well, Gaffney has enjoyed the better field position. Spartanburg enjoyed the early lead. Vikings have a minute 6 to work with as they get set to go to work from deep in their own territory. What do you think the communication is from Mark Hodge to his team right here?
Oh, don't make a mistake. I think you just want to get to the locker room. 1:06 to go, tied at 7. Regroup and get set for the second half, so they'll probably throw an 80-yard touchdown pass here.
Well, just because of whatever you say, you know how it goes. Generally the other way. That's the fun of what you do. The fun of what we do, absolutely. Here comes the first down play, and on the ground, Lynch, but there to gather him up is Ty McGill. Tavanus McGill, he told you he's off the JV a year ago where he was the Offensive Player of the Year. Said we just had to have him on the field, and so he finds his way to the defensive side of the football. He's got an interception tonight, and still in the thick of things as he makes it tough as 22 collides with 17. Working his way to Trenton Lynch, number 40. Will Big 4-0 be a major factor tonight? Could he be right here? Loose again, up across the 30 to the 32. And on cue, he has a first down of the Greenville awning variety for Spartanburg, but 25 seconds left as they'll quickly reset the chains.
What you saw there, 3 down, and then the linebackers were, you know, about 6 or 7 yards back, and once he got past the line, good game.
Remember, Love's leg substantial. So Spartanburg, with a quick hit somewhere and a few more yards on top of that, would be in position to try to take a 10-7 lead at the intermission.
Yeah, you just once you pick up a little bit of yardage there, then you think, all right, kind of work the sideline a little bit if you can. Good arm strength there. You see him coming over the sideline and getting the call from the Viking sideline. Trey Burke, nice to see him back. It got injured earlier in the year. Of course, last year was very good as well, and a difference maker there at quarterback.
Some length at wide receiver for Spartanburg. Certainly trying to be more physical on the perimeter if it happens, but you want to keep it in 40's hands as much as possible, right? They go his direction again, little toss that takes it up near the marker, and timeout being called for quickly again. Closing in on midfield, but still some work to do if they're going to turn this into a scoring chance.
You know, you take a look at his ability there, and that's his 12th catch. He is second in the team in receptions. We talked so much about his ability. 644 yards rushing coming in. The team had 602. And the math worked there. Well, quarterback sacks, but that just shows you how important he is both in the running and receiving game.
What you're telling me is the question you need to ask if you're trying to defend Spartanburg High School's Vikings is, where is number 40?
I think that might have been one of the keys that
where is
John told us.
Number 40? He is a tremendous player. Boy, Trenton Lynch, a fun one to watch, and as we get to travel around the state and see these tremendous players, he's one of those that you circle and say, boy, when we get to Spartanburg there in late September, it's going to be fun to see how much the back has developed from one year to the next. He's a special player. One of the captains, by the way. He, and we should mention Brendan Carson, who's up on the line, the only returner on the offensive line for Spartanburg. The two captains alongside Trey Burke on the offensive side of the ball. It is that trio and Carter Waugh, who is the senior in the center of the Spartanburg defense, that make up the captain grouping for the Spartanburg Vikings, the leaders on the field. And you know how important that is in a Mark Hodge program that is about so much more in terms of leadership than just what happens on the football field. Lynch providing a good bit of it on the football field here, but his run will exhaust the final seconds of the opening half, and it will end at 7 apiece these first two quarters of football. Coach Hodge and company were trying to preserve some time, see if after that run they could put a quick look for Will Love together. But the football is being held in the air by a referee. The universal sign for the half has come to a close, and they will head to the locker rooms with 7 on the board for the home team, 7 on the board for the visitors. Just another night in this century-plus-old rivalry between the Vikings and the Indians, as they're knotted up again. 110 meetings. We told you just a couple separating them in terms of wins and losses all time, and nothing separating them on the scoreboard in this one, as we check in with Nelson, who's going to give us the thoughts of the Spartan High head coach, who's standing by.
Thanks, Tom. Thanks, Jason. This is the Coach's Corner, brought to you by Carolina Furniture Concepts. Well, Coach, we're tied 7-all at the half. What were your thoughts just now in the first half of the game?
Well, we played sloppy. You know, I made a mistake on the punt safe. I knew what the play was and let the field get turned over right there. But we missed some things. But I think our kids are starting to settle down and see what it actually is. So I look for us to have a really good second half.
What's going to be the message to the boys in the locker room?
Just do your job.
Yes, sir. Good luck in the second half, Coach. Tom, Jason, back to you guys.
As so often is the case out of the mouth of Mark Hodge, that's a lesson for football, and that's a lesson for life. We'll see who does their job to the tune of a Region 2 victory in the second half in just a bit. But first things first, Spartanburg Community College halftime report coming up on the other side of the break in a 7-7 showdown.
Creighton Mills Elementary, Brent.
Yes, sir. Yeah, can you do a mic check, Elizabeth? Just say your name, just kind of talk. Mic check.
Mic check, mic check. Hello.
Can you guys hear? Outstanding.
Perfect.
I'm going to start with you on the camera, and then I'm going to say, Elizabeth, welcome to the show. We're just going to go from there, okay?
Anita Benson.
Some change, and then at the very end, I'm going to say, Elizabeth, you are our Army Scholar Athlete winner. Congratulations, and I'll hand it to you, okay?
Perfect.
Well, whenever you guys are ready, just let me know.
McCarthy Tesla School, Jessica.
Friday Night Rival Scholar Athlete, brought to you by Arby's.
Welcome back to Friday Night Rivals here on the Spartanburg Community College Halftime Show. Well, folks, throughout the course of the F&R season, we're going to interview an array of Arby's Scholar Athlete winners here on this show. These Arby's Scholar Athlete winners are eligible to receive a $5,000 scholarship. Tonight, we are joined by the Arby's Scholar Athlete winner from Gaffney High School, Elizabeth Sumner. Elizabeth, welcome to the show.
Hi, how are you doing today?
One as well. How about yourself?
I'm awesome.
Awesome. Now, Elizabeth, let's talk, because you are the queen of academics over at Gaffney High. You're sitting on a sky-high GPA. You're also ranked currently #1 in your class, and that's just the tip of the iceberg. Share with us some additional academic accolades under your belt.
Yes, sir. So some of the most important things I'd say for me that I'm a part of our Beta Club, our National Honor Society, National English Honor Society, and our Mu Alpha Theta Math Honor Society. So within those, we of course focus on academics a lot, which is super duper important. And then there's also a very special to me and near and dear to my heart part for community service. So I love that intertwines. So I'm involved in all of that stuff.
That's magnificent. Now, what are some of your post-high school plans?
I plan on attending a 4-year college. I'm not totally sure which, but I do want to double major in business and political science.
Okay.
And then after that, I plan on going to law school and then hopefully going into healthcare litigation.
Very ambitious. Now, I heard that you are quite the golfer as well. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
How long have you been a golfer? Can you share with me some accomplishments within that sport as well?
Yes. So I started whenever I was in 8th grade, and I mean, like, could not even hit the ball.
Okay.
So it's honestly an accomplishment in itself to be where I am now. I actually play as our seed #1 for Gaffney High School girls golf.
Nice.
So that's a very big accomplishment for me. And honestly, just being able to be a part of a team with the wonderful ladies that I play with is a really big deal to me, and I'm very, very proud to be a part of the team, just in general.
You do sound quite proud. Now, earlier you touched on your volunteer efforts in the community. Let's expand upon that. You know, what inspires you to want to give back and invest in other people?
Yes, I am very passionate about just pouring back into the community that's poured so much into me, because community service is so much more than just what you're doing for other people. It gives back to you. So I really like to do Meals on Wheels. It's one of my favorites, because when you think about it, like, some of those people, you're the only person they see that day. Like, I love to hear about people's grandkids and just talk to them, because it's more than just a meal or different things like that. We also, I'm a part of Sub-Dep Club, so we do a community service project every month. I'm actually the treasurer of that club. So my favorite project within that, we do Christmases for kids. So we go to Walmart and we shop with children who are a little bit less fortunate and help them to be able to have a Christmas, and they're always so thankful. I remember my first one, this little girl came up to me and just like ran and hugged me.
Wow.
And like, I was like almost in tears. It was so sweet.
That's so noble, very noble indeed. Well, Elizabeth, once again, you are Arby's Scholar Athlete winner. Congratulations.
Thank you.
All right. Arby's, we have the meats. We'll be back in just a moment, folks. We're going to interview an array of
Friday Night Rivals Scholar Athlete, brought to you by Arby's.
Welcome back to Friday Night Rivals here on the Spartanburg Community College Halftime Show. Well, folks, throughout the course of the F&R season, we're going to interview an array of Arby's Scholar Athlete winners here on this show. These Arby's Scholar Athlete winners are eligible to receive a $5,000 scholarship. Tonight, we are joined by the Arby's Scholar Athlete winner from Gaffney High School, Elizabeth Sumner. Elizabeth, welcome to the show.
Hi, how are you doing today?
One as well. How about yourself?
I'm awesome.
Awesome. Now, Elizabeth, let's talk, because you are the queen of academics over at Gaffney High. You're sitting on a sky-high GPA. You're also ranked currently #1 in your class, and that's just the tip of the iceberg. Share with us some additional academic accolades under your belt.
Yes, sir. So some of the most important things I'd say for me that I'm a part of our Beta Club, our National Honor Society, National English Honor Society, and our Mu Alpha Theta Math Honor Society. So within those, we of course focus on academics a lot, which is super duper important. And then there's also a very special to me and near and dear to my heart part for community service. So I love that that intertwines. So I'm involved in all of that stuff.
That's magnificent. Now, what are some of your post-high school plans?
I plan on attending a four-year college. I'm not totally sure which, but I do want to double major in business and political science.
Okay.
And then after that, I plan on going to law school and then hopefully going into healthcare litigation.
Very ambitious. Now, I heard that you are quite the golfer as well. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
How long have you been a golfer? Can you share with me some accomplishments within that sport as well?
Yes. So I started whenever I was in 8th grade, and I mean, like, could not even hit the ball.
Okay.
So it's honestly an accomplishment in itself to be where I am now. I actually play as our seed #1 for Gaffney High School girls golf.
Nice.
So that's a very big accomplishment for me. And honestly, just being able to be a part of a team with the wonderful ladies that I play with is a really big deal to me, and I'm very, very proud to be a part of the team, just in general.
You do sound quite proud. Now, earlier you touched on your volunteer efforts in the community. Let's expand upon that. You know, what inspires you to want to give back and invest in other people?
Yes, I am very passionate about just pouring back into the community that's poured so much into me, because community service is so much more than just what you're doing for other people. It gives back to you. So I really like to do Meals on Wheels. It's one of my favorites, because when you think about it, like, some of those people, you're the only person they see that day. Like, I love to hear about people's grandkids and just talk to them, because it's more than just a meal or different things like that. We also, I'm a part of Sub-Dep Club, so we do a community service project every month. I'm actually the treasurer of that club. So my favorite project within that, we do Christmases for kids. So we go to Walmart and we shop with children who are a little bit less fortunate and help them to be able to have a Christmas, and they're always so thankful. I remember my first one, this little girl came up to me and just like ran and hugged me.
Wow.
And like, I was like almost in tears. It was so sweet.
That's so noble, very noble indeed. Well, Elizabeth, once again, you are Arby's Scholar Athlete winner. Congratulations.
Thank you.
All right. Arby's, we have the meats. We'll be back in just a moment, folks.
The best Thursday night lights and Friday night rivals highlights from across the country.
Angel's gonna run it. Case and Angel, first down and more. Case and Angel, midfield, still on his feet. There he goes. He's off to the races, and no one's gonna catch him. Touchdown,
He doesn't see Alloway coming right there.
Oh,
yeah.
Yikes.
Lands on his head.
4th down, they're going to keep the offense on the field, going to the end zone. This ball's up for grabs. Jump ball, and it's caught. Oh, my goodness.
Yes, it is.
Hula again. To kind of see how he's doing, figure things out. A high snap way over his head. Again, a fine play, but he's in real trouble. Forget about it. Oh, my goodness, just thrown down. And how about this? It's going to be Choctaw ball inside the Synovus red zone.
Plenty of time towards the end zone. And it is caught. Caught it is. Jaree Moore Stewart with a fantastic catch in the end zone. And it's a Reaper's Revenge touchdown for the Panthers.
To keep the Mules undefeated. Walker Bryant to hold. The kick is up. It is straight. It is perfect. And it is good. And the Mules walk off with the win at Lenoff Stadium.
Here in the Palmetto State, in a contest that on more than one occasion has been selected as the national game of the week, the Spartanburg Vikings, the Gaffney Indians have dueled it out to a 7-7 contest at the intermission. We welcome you back to the Spartanburg Community College Halftime Report. Tom, you look back across this one now, and we're set to take a look at some of the statistics and some of the highlights. What stands out to you when you look at the numbers?
Well, I think the Spartanburg defense has done a heck of a job. I mean, Gaffney's offensive line huge. They've been able to slow the run down a little bit, and you know, it's as even as you can see right there with total yards.
134 total yards on each side. Can't make it up. And we work our way toward the highlights from the first half. You're going to see a score on each side. Spartanburg, you know, utilizing the good work of Trenton Lynch along the way. But it was the passing touchdown you're going to see here in a minute that made the difference in terms of the scoring for the Vikings.
Yeah,
after Lynch did the heavy lifting.
Yeah, outside, and he powers it inside, and then Burks can fire that ball and gets it to Ferguson in there for the touchdown.
Ferguson, the lone touchdown for Spartanburg. And for Gaffney, well, it was the heavy lifting, speaking of, done by Josiah Hill on the ground. Hill's going to take the pile all the way with him into the end zone for the lone Gaffney score of the night thus far.
Sets that up, 5'11", 218, powers his way, shoves one out of the way, got him for the touchdown. We're tied at 7 apiece.
Definition of I will not be denied right there as Gaffney tied it up 7 apiece. And now we turn our attention to 2 more quarters to settle it between these two teams in the 110th meeting between them all time. Much more to come between Gaffney and Spartanburg when you return to this battle. Beautiful night at a gorgeous venue for high school football. The lights are bright for Friday Night Rivals. We are moments away from the start of the 3rd quarter in the 110th meeting between Spartanburg and Gaffney. And Tom, this one always seems to live up to the billing, and there's so much more to be determined that it's worth revisiting our keys to the game. Walk us through what it's going to take to be successful.
Well, Gaffney wanted to establish the run. I really think up front did a nice job defensively for Spartanburg, and he's done a relatively good job at keeping Trenton Lynch in check, although we've seen him run inside outside as well and catch a pass. And the Vikings, they need to finish. We've been here before. And then the kicking game, talked about Will Love and his ability to kick the ball may be a differential later in the ball game.
Those keys to the game brought to you by Spartanburg Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram, sponsors of our keys to the game. Well, this game, the number that stands out, 134, that's the total yards on both sides through one half of action. And you see the warm-up tosses being taken for Burke. Two outstanding quarterbacks in this one. The question really, which one will rise to the occasion and lead his team to victory?
I'll tell you, both settling in a little bit here. We talked about Banks Bowden. He transferred in for Gaffney from Greenville and settled into their starting quarterback, and Trey Burke, trying to get him healthy a little bit. They just pop in here real quickly. Dorman leads Burns 23-14 at half. Boiling Springs had a 28-14 lead on the east side at halftime, and Riverside leads Wade Hampton 20-9. Wade Hampton, in fact, Spirit Week raised $152,000 for after-school programs. Pretty amazing stuff what's going on at high school around there.
Falls in the category of what matters, that's for sure. So nicely done, and good to catch up on some of the scores of what's happening around one of the premier regions for football. Well, we heard from Mark Hodge going in. He talked about his team doing his job. We now get to visit with the first-year head coach of the Gaffney Indians, who is standing by with Nelson.
Thanks, Tom. Thanks, Jason. This is the coach brought to you by Carolina Furniture Concepts. We'll coach at 7-all coming out of this half. Talk to me about the Western Wilson Boyden locker room just now.
Well, you know, we just got to calm down and do what we came to do. We need to establish a run game on offense that opens up the pass, and we got to make sure on defense we keep finding out where number 40 is and take care of him. If we can clean the penalties up and stop shooting ourselves in the foot, I think we'll be.
All right, good luck in the second half, Coach. Yes, sir. Tom, Jason, back to you guys.
First-year head coach of the Gaffney Indians, keeping it simple. Remember, he played there. He went to Furman. He came back there. Has been a long-time offensive coordinator, now getting the nod as the head man. And what a start it has been for his team in this one. They battled back from a 7-0 deficit, find themselves on even ground. And again, he kept it simple in terms of what they need to do, Tom. You know, he told us this is a Gaffney team that's chasing 19. Of course, that already the highest number of championships in the history of the state of South Carolina, the 18 they currently possess. But they're chasing 19. He said they're chasing 19 for 3 reasons. Number 1, to honor God. Number 2, for Jade McDowell, who was injured earlier in the year, one of the key pieces to the puzzle for them, and for Seth Phillips, number 55, who had to step away from football. And you know, both those guys here tonight, and certainly they're a big part of what this team wants to do in the long haul. But he said it, for that team, in order to glorify God and honor those 2 individuals who've been a big part of what they've done, they want to chase number 19 there at Gaffney. This is a big half to that end when you consider it's against Spartanburg and it's for the right to stay unbeaten in the region.
So think about that, 18 state championships. I mean, it's pretty remarkable, and Dan Jones was able to win a couple of those along the way, and just tremendous history with head coaches there, and kind of a lineage of guys that played there and then coached there.
No doubt about it. Dan Jones, who's still around the program. In fact, he said he saw him right this week when we were talking with both coaches. And we need to also say thank you to both coaches. Thank you to all these coaches as we travel around who give us access. We had a chance to visit with Coach Littlejohn earlier this week. We had a chance to visit with Coach Hodge earlier this week. Very gracious with their time, giving us windows into their programs, you know, who they are and what they stand for, so that we can pass those pieces of information along to you here on Friday Night Rivals. And a big thank you, we mentioned it, Gaffney Athletic Director Malcolm Long, Spartanburg Athletic Director Todd Staley. You know what Todd Staley has done here with this athletic department at Spartanburg, and where they are with facilities, and where they are in terms of the development of young men and young women across all sports. Big tip of the cap to our friend Todd Staley as well for hosting us tonight. Great to be here in his backyard and to be around all these who see it as more than just athletic pursuit, see it as the development of citizens in our society here in South Carolina for ages to come.
I know you and I love doing the high school games, and we're fortunate enough to do a lot of collegiate and some professional work as well. But I tell you what these gentlemen do, these 2 and everybody else wherever we go with Friday Night Rivals is remarkable. on and off the field, and they're trying to develop life skills as well, other than just what the athletic exploits. Now, don't get me wrong, you want to win tonight as well.
Ask either one of these communities, they'll tell you how important it is to win tonight. They're going to be talking about it at the barber shop. It's going to be bragging rights for another year. But I'm with you, Tom, to develop young men and across all sports, develop young women who are going to be great citizens, who are going to know and understand what life is all about and be contributors for their faith and their God and their families and their communities. That we are reminded by so many of these coaches is what it's all about, and it's something that is worth underscoring on a night like this. So all that to say, a big thank you to Spartanburg High School, to Gaffney High School, for everything that makes nights like these possible before we wade into this third quarter. And now that we turn our attention to football, what do you expect here in the third quarter, Tom?
Well, as Coach Littlejohn said there, they got to cut down the penalties, and 4 of those came, I think all 4 of them came in that last drive, and a couple of big ones there. And just as Coach Hodge told Nelson, there, just do your job, settle down, get back into it. They've got to, as he said, watch Trenton Lynch as well on the Spartanburg side. But I think they want to be able to control the line of scrimmage. I think they need to run the football, talking about Gaffney here early on in the second half.
Remember, Spartanburg won the toss, opted to receive because they wanted to score right away. They did strike first. How about a bullet from Will Love this time? It goes right through the hands of a potential Gaffney return man, and it's a little bit different than kicking it all the way to the hedges beyond the goalpost, but it still gets you that touchback, and the Indians will take over after the ball is brought out to the 20-yard line. Well, we walked you through keys. You know, both these teams have gained an even 134 yards in the first half. You also know when they get together, throw the records out now, even though one of them's looking to be perfect in the region on the young season. And you could forget what happened in the first half, because now it's 2 quarters to settle it. And here's the first drive of the third for Gaffney on the ground, but running right into one of the captains for Spartanburg. There's Carter Waugh. We called his name several times tonight, Tom, and he is among the leaders on this Spartanburg D. He wears that captain patch. And, you know, when you are, to go back to some of the things we were talking about, a leader selected in a program that stands for the kind of things we're talking about like they do here at Spartan High, that speaks to your character, and it says something about this young man.
It really does, and I'll tell you, it says something. He's going to stick the helmet in there, toss sweep to 218, and he was able to bring him down. Look at that formation.
Second down after the 4 yards, and here's Boughton, who's going to take it on across the 30 up to the 33. That looks like it's going to be a First Franklin Financial first down, and it appears the flag now comes in, which may tack on a little more. Well, one of those collisions that came as the play was wrapping up, that you look around and see, is there going to be a flag? And here it comes.
Yeah, he was out of bounds and then coming over from the backside to make contact there.
Jordan Hill Atkins, who's had a great night tonight. Jordan Hill Atkins played with some tremendous intensity and done on more than one occasion positive things for Spartanburg, but the Vikings are going to be flagged for the personal foul here, and all of a sudden Gaffney's going to have outstanding field position.
They are, and you know, the first 2 plays we didn't see any of that in the first half. A toss sweep quickly to Hill, and then with that formation the way it was with 4 on the other side, looked that way. It was a quarterback run all the way, brought it to the near side. The add-on 15, you got a good gain there.
Going to set up a first down, a couple of yards shy of midfield. Indians have it on the 48. Gaffney making the short trip over from Cherokee County tonight into Spartanburg County. Only thing separating these 2 teams at County Live, a lot of championships between them across both sides of that county line, and a great deal of Region 2 history over the years. The latest chapter being written as we speak. And an incomplete pass at the 11:09 mark. Going to take it to second down from the 48.
He tried to get it out of the air. It's a long pass, and a dangerous pass, came up a little bit shy there, and that'll bring up a second down and 10. I think Gaffney getting the ball to start the second half, they need to have a solid possession here after what transpired down the stretch in the first half.
Well, and it's a chance for this Spartanburg defense as well, Tom. A defense that has made headlines tonight to stiffen their neck as the Indians work toward midfield. In fact, this play will take Gaffney across midfield to the Spartanburg 49. But an important third down is coming after just a 3 or 4 yard gain here.
And you think about what Spartanburg gave up, 39 to Northwestern, 39-7 to Dutch Fork, 54-21, and even gave up 34 last week to Eastside. So they have really done a nice job. Now, again, Northwestern and Dutch Fork are pretty good. Won state championships last year.
Yeah, you talk about a battle-tested team with a tough stretch in front of them. This is it. That defense will tighten up enough that they limit the quarterback on his keeper to just a couple of yards. It's going to bring up a 4th down and 4.
Chance McCree and company will eventually make the play, but he was flushed out of there. We've seen that tonight when he's dropped back, that coming off the edge and up inside, they've done a nice job to flush out the quarterback. Back spot.
Now 10-minute mark, 3rd quarter. 4th down coming for Gaffney on its opening drive of this second half, and timeout is going to be taken ahead of a 4th down and 4. We'll take it as well. Consequential 4th down call coming on the other side of the break. I got Charlotte putting her web together right outside my window. You see this spider that keeps coming back and forth? I don't know if he's going to write the final score for me or not, but
Time for tonight's Drive Save Game Break, brought to you by George Sink Injury Lawyers, reminding students and families that the most important win is getting home safely. Did you know that car crashes are the leading cause of death for U.S. teens, and nearly half of teen drivers killed in crashes weren't wearing a seatbelt? Drive smart, drive safe, and remember, George Sink Injury Lawyers is proud to stand behind our student athletes and safe drivers.
Momentum up for grabs in the early stages of the 3rd quarter of a tie game between Spartanburg and Gaffney. Night where there was some rain earlier, but has turned off gorgeous now. 71 degrees. Just the kind of Friday night you want for a rivalry game that takes the stage as often and as effectively as this one does. And here's a moment in it. 4th down for Gaffney. Looking as if they were going to kick it. This time they used the 2-pooch punch from earlier to throw off the Spartanburg D, and Boughton will rush for the 1st down as Gaffney maintains possession. Well, it was visions of earlier tonight when twice he decided to kick it deep into Spartanburg territory. Caught that low as it was snapped beautifully, Tom, and he runs it for a First Franklin Financial 1st down.
Yeah, I mean, gutsy call there, but seen it twice with 2 really good pooch kicks, and they've been effective in field position, but this is effective in field position as well. You get to keep the football.
Well, where it was snapped, it looked as if he was getting ready to boot it away. Sold it beautifully. Now here's a little trickery as it's tossed back to the QB, but Spartanburg reads it, and the Vikings turn it aside. Christian Davis waited on it. He was the only returning player in the secondary from a year ago coming into tonight, and Christian Davis has the 3rd quarter takeaway that will get the Gaffney Indians off the field. How about this play by number 10?
5'11", 165 junior, and he has the inside position there, one-on-one coverage. They've got 3 interceptions on the year, and he has all 3.
Well, Davis for Spartanburg, you know, it's got to be one of those things you think about when you come to the land of the Vikings. And Christian Davis, the senior, who again, the one guy in that secondary with experience from a year ago. And he has the INT, and now they'll give it to Lynch. You know, Lynch was able to really find some running room at the end of the half, Tom. Improved his stats, even if Spartanburg didn't come away with anything at the end of the drive. You know, he's now carried the ball 9 times for just over 75 yards. A lot of that coming toward the final stages of the second quarter. Is he going to heat up here in the third?
And averages 161 per game, 10.6 per carry, and also had a receiver, a catch that was effective as well on the drive.
You're right. They'll target him. It goes back to that question we ask so often, where is number 40? Something opponents going to have to ask time and again. Spartanburg keeps it on the ground, so third down is coming from the 6-yard line. Boy, is this not so indicative of the field position Spartanburg has had so often tonight? Had one drive start from the 1, and yes, glad to have the football after the pick, but still standing in his own end zone as he throws it is Burke. And speaking of a pick, Gaffney has one. It's more than a pick 6 for the Indians, and Gaffney is out front for the first time tonight. Guess who again? Ty McGill had the interception for Gaffney earlier. He has the takeaway turned touchdown here as the Indians are out front in the third.
Yeah, had the underneath coverage there, dropped back, and you know, made the catch there, takes it the distance, 18 yards for the touchdown.
Ty McGill, well, you know, he's used to scoring. Remember, he's the one the Gaffney staff told us was the offensive player of the year on JV last season. He puts up 6, make it 7 with the extra point that is punched through by Santana. And with that South Carolina Army National Guard touchdown of the defensive variety, Gaffney forges ahead in the third. Well, they're smiling in Gaffney, some of them with smiles provided by Nth Degree Orthodontics. They are the proud sponsors of our Smile Cam. That's after the pick 6. Gaffney, an interception return for a touchdown here, and now a 14-7 lead. All smiles brought to you by Nth Degree Orthodontics, proud sponsors of tonight's Smile Cam here and all across our South Carolina games here on my 40 and ABC 13 this season. Here's another look at the pick, Tom. Second interception of the night for 22, and Ty McGill carries it in for the TD.
I just dropped back in coverage there and read the eyes of the quarterback. And last week in that win that Gaffney had, and 34-7 win over Boiling Springs, 4 interceptions that night. McGill had one of those. He's got 2 more of them tonight. So defense has been one of the keys here tonight for the Gaffney team.
We told you they're chasing number 19. And this night would be a big step in that direction as a huge region contest. You know, this is one, they're playing it early. They used to play the first game of the year and the last game of the year, and often meet again in the playoffs in a given year. That's how you get to 110 meetings pretty quickly. It would happen regularly. Now they find themselves playing, you know, at different times seasonally, but it's always one you point back to whoever ends up winning the region and say, that one was consequential. And tonight it will be again. Little lift for Gaffney, and here's a big, big lick as the Indians on coverage making their presence known to prevent a further return. Boy, that was a huge hit.
It was Kareem Shaw, one of the cornerbacks, and doubles as a special teams player there and used to making tackles, and that was a big one. This becomes a pretty big drive here for Spartanburg.
Kareem Shaw came over from Daniel. He's a brother of Aiden Montgomery. Those two coming over from Daniel. They talk about what tremendous young men they are and what a lift they've given them in that secondary as they anchor both sides of it. They're out there now on defense, and you said it, important drive for Spartanburg, but you got to like your chances with Trey Burke back there, an experienced QB for the Vikings, and Lynch, who he can hand it off to. You just get the sense at some point Trenton Lynch is going to break one of these. He's right on the verge of doing so.
Yeah, pounding up inside. It's been, you ran through his numbers. He's up over 80 yards now, and still pretty good yards per carry. 10.6 coming in, but they've been able to keep him from the really big one.
Here he is again, the legit running back for the Spartanburg Vikings. Has a bigger one here. He's got a much more impressive run on this occasion as he's up near midfield, and you said he's looking for the bigger run, the biggest run of the night. Could it be on the horizon? Because he really seems to be finding another gear here, Tom, with the first Franklin Financial first down.
208 and 3 touchdowns on the ground last week.
This way, Ferguson had the touchdown catch earlier, had the first catch of the night for Spartanburg, and Kevion Ferguson is into Gaffney territory at the 48. So Spartanburg on the march. This offense, it is seasoned, it is solid. The response capability is there, but it's got to happen right here, right now for Mark Hodge and company. And, he sees so much more of the potential-wise in this group. As you saw his reaction, a guy who you never have to worry about letting you know how he feels about it, as he tries to will his team forward on what would be a game-tying drive. 6:50 left to go in the third, and Gaffney trying to stall a Spartanburg drive, just inching over into Indian territory now. And into the Gaffney Indians territory at the 47 is Spartanburg. Here's a third down play for the Vikings. Under pressure. Burke gets away initially, but he's upended. And he is upended by Gaffney's Money Monroe. Haven't called his name yet tonight. Aldrian Monroe, he's a junior in that secondary for Gaffney. They call him Money, and boy, does he come up in that type scenario here.
Man, he did. You saw him come up from the secondary and broke coverage there. Good job to get him to go laterally and able to make an open field tackle there.
Wow, that looked like Trey Burke was going to be able to slide away. Made a couple of guys miss. But in the end, this drive comes to a halt. Back on the Spartanburg side of the 50, ever so slightly at the 49. Well, can Spartanburg play a little fill position? Pin Gaffney deep for a change. Love out there, who excels in every area of the kicking game. The timeout is going to be called for ahead of the fourth down play. Well, so often it comes down to which of these teams is going to be able to get the key stop in this one tonight. And in the fourth quarter, we will have our school bus stop of the game. It's a law in each state that when the school bus stop arm is out and the red lights are flashing, you got to bring it to a halt. That'll be the school bus stop of the game coming up in the fourth quarter tonight. Plenty to choose from on both sides in that one, and this booming kick will go into the end zone, so it will be a touchback. Gaffney football with 5:21 to go in the third. How about the early stages of this third quarter so far, Tom? Obviously, you point back to the pick six. That's the difference in the football game right now.
Yeah, the defense got it done there. They were able to move the football a little bit, and they converted on fourth down, and you got them backed up again. We've seen Spartanburg have really difficult field position here tonight, and got it in a situation where you force the pass, and McGill able to pick it off and take it into the end zone. That's the difference in the ball game right now.
First down at the 20-yard line for Banks Boughton and company. And running into a Spartanburg defender, bouncing off the first and turning it into about 3 yards as the ball carrier. Now that Spartanburg defense in the early stages tonight, able to turn Gaffney aside on multiple occasions. Second down, 8. Coming with 5 and change to go in the third here. Of course, Justin Dawkins on the carry there. Dawkins, one of the seniors, back over from a Spartanburg County school in Chapman High School. On the ground, too many Vikings there this time. How about how well that was handled by that Spartanburg front? You know, here's visions of what we saw from Spartanburg's defense earlier in the game.
Yeah, I mean, particularly when you go back to the first quarter, I think only 25 total yards in the first quarter of play. And both teams ended up with 134 at halftime. It go on the short side of the field, and good job there to stuff it at the line of scrimmage. Pretty big third down coming up here.
Host of Vikings hopping off the boat that time. Tryon Duncan, one of the individuals who was on the scene. You said it, third down, and Gaffney backed up a bit here. And good pressure, able to get away from it. Initially Boughton, but it is sealed off, and he's going to be forced out of bounds, well short of the marker. Fourth down coming, and that Spartanburg defense appears as if it held.
I tell you, really good job to get out of that. Of the snap, he had to go get it with one hand. Nice job to just catch it. And really, from that standpoint, he's been under pressure tonight. It's been pretty good. The pressure up front, I think, has been solid here tonight for the Vikings.
Well, this is where they grow up, in moments like this, and this defense in many ways doing it before our very eyes tonight. You know, we talked about this Spartanburg program, Tom, and everything it stands for with its core values and the refined program and all that means and all that Mark Hodge has instilled into these players and their families. And if you're not familiar with it, refined, each one of those letters in that word with a significant theme that he shares with his team. One being redeemed, empowered, finish, integrity, inflinchable, empathetic, and deliberate. It deals with your relationship from faith to family and every piece of your life as you grow up, not only as a football player, but as a young man and as a citizen in society. And Tom, it's moments like this and drives like this one that's about to come where those type values are forged.
Yeah, he's talking about a young team and their ability to focus. Particularly, we're getting late here in the third quarter play. We know what's happened the last couple of years in the fourth quarter, and it's been very interesting in our conversations. We go all the way back to the Chapman days with Coach Hodge and what he has meant and the difference he's made in a lot of young men's lives.
Well, and tremendous respect between these two teams and their coaching staffs despite the rivalry. A lot of R's there. Rivalry and respect, both a big piece of it. This is kicked away, and it's a big-time Gaffney bounce all the way to that Palmetto State logo at the 25-yard line and just inside it where this is blown dead. Well, it speaks to the kind of individual that Mark Hodge is as his team gets ready to go to work here. That who did Coach Downey Littlejohn tell us when we were talking to both coaches this week was one of the first individuals to reach out to them and one of the main individuals he's leaned on since taking the job. He said on more than one occasion, I've taken Coach Hodge up on his offer. I've called him and he's given me great insight and helped me in some of these early moments as a head coach. And that's beyond the rivalry. That's to the heart of the respect and the relationship that exists.
And the other thing about we get a player
we
down
do
here.
We have an individual down being tended to right now after that Gaffney kick, and we'll, as the training staff works its way out there, we'll keep an eye and see if we can get an update for you on his situation. And let's see if we can. We will take a break, see if we can gain some information on the injured Gaffney player on the other side.
We got 10 seconds. Welcome back to Friday Night Rivals. Well, folks, I'm standing here on the sidelines with the proud principal of Spartanburg High School, Dr. McMillan. Well, Doc, what are your thoughts on the game so far?
Great game so far, man. Very close. Let's go Vikings.
Go Vikings indeed. Well, sir, on behalf of my 40 and Friday Night Rivals, one, we thank you so much for your proud invitation. Thank you all for hosting us here tonight. But more importantly, we proudly present you a check for $500.
Let's go. Go Vikings.
Tom, Jason, back to you guys.
Well, thanks to the principal, to all the coaches, the staff, everybody, including Athletic Director Todd Staley, making a night like tonight possible. It's been a pleasure to be here at Spartan High, and we thank them for the way they take care of our crew each and every time we visit. The injured Gaffney player a moment ago, Blake Martin, he was up under his own power and left, so good signs on that. Everything seems to be okay. That was on the punt for Gaffney, which is allowing Mark Hodge and the Spartanburg Vikings to take over at the 25-yard line. He sent his offense back out there. Tom, they initially had no trouble moving the football on that last drive until they reached midfield. Let's see what they've drawn up this time around. And Lynch looks for some room. He's got some out across the 30 to the 35. And it just feels like for 4-0, and I'll say it again, that it's a matter of time. And what did he tell us? If you missed it in the first half, he said, we had him on a bit of a pitch count early. That's appropriate terminology for this time of year with the baseball playoffs coming. He said, but now that we're in the games that really count, the region games, the bigger the game, the more he's going to touch the football. They're going to open it up for 40 as often as possible. And on cue, he answers the bell. Across midfield and into Gaffney territory, the talented Trenton Lynch with another First Franklin Financial first down.
That one showed you why he is so good. Watch the cut here. Sets it up. It's tough to bring down. Just a nice little brush block on that far sideline over there by Keenan to help him get a couple of more yards.
I've invoked Stephen Davis' name once or twice tonight. You know, he's had some long runs like that in this rivalry back the old Snyder Field days when you go back to prior to this great Vikings stadium. What do they call it? Todd Staley calls it Valhalla here. The new facility that they have, the land the Vikings want to go to. It certainly has proven a great home for Spartanburg, and it's given us tremendous nights like this where so many of these battles, whether it be with Gaffney, whether it be with Dorman, whether it be with Burns here in this facility, required the chess match to go right down to the wire. Trending that way again with 3:17 remaining in the third. Vikings at midfield. Lynch runs into that line, and he still struggles forward, and I mean that in every positive sense of the word. He is battling for every inch of real estate. He gets about 3.5 here to set up a third down, and they're going to call it 7.
Got a good look there at Zion Ratchford, also Kamari K. Will Williams at 6 feet 255, junior defensive end.
He is in that 10-yard fight. Each time they hand him the football, the talented Trenton Lynch. Swing a pass out. Couple of yards shy of the marker on this one in the direction of Keenan, who makes the catch.
He did a good job there trying to reach out, didn't he? Watch this down the sideline.
No, he knows where the marker is. Could not quite get there. Fourth down call coming right here. Important call for Spartanburg. Fourth down, a long 2, and they'll run a couple of different individuals personnel-wise out there. You hear these bands adding to the pageantry. The passion and the intensity of moments like this. Another big fourth down. And Spartanburg in that package where they can let Lynch take care of business. He does. That falls under that do your job category as the big boys up front made enough space to keep the drive alive.
You know what's coming, right? And I thought they had it defended pretty well to begin things, but he was able to get his shoulder square, turn it upfield, and pick up that first down. Big one.
Over 100 yards now for Lynch on the night. First Franklin Financial first down. Remember, he was sitting coming into this quarter at right at that 70-something yard threshold. Where was he? And has worked his way up over that, and none bigger than that carry you saw. Now this is going to put him behind the sticks ever so slightly, as Torian Davis's name is called here. We got a player down again. Looks like an injured Gaffney player at around the 38-yard line as the pile's stacked up there. Lynch was at 74 yards at the half. And he has carried much more of the load here in the third quarter. We're going to take another break while they tend to the injured Gaffney player. Hope to come back with further good news on the other side. Well, an injury timeout that is taking a little longer here, Tom, but good to see young man up on his feet. That's Kamari Williams. They call him K-Will. He's one of those guys who came over from J.L. Mann, a guy who they talk about giving his best effort start to finish on nights like these. And body's got a little tangled up there, but good news is he's walking off to the far side. That's true of all players that have been injured on both sides tonight. They've been able to get up and move on under their own power, which is a good sign. You hope there are no lingering effects. You got to remember, you know, both these teams have lost some key contributors. A couple of the best defenders on the Spartanburg side of the ball, one of the better of the offensive weapons on the Gaffney side of the ball early in the year lost. And it's a battle. It's a game of attrition. And we certainly hope no lingering effects on either side tonight of some of those kids that have been banged up from time to time. Here's Burke. He's going to be wrestled to the ground. Open field tackle, and deciding that there was no way he was going to come away with anything but the sack. Take a look at big 9'5" in there.
Yeah, Lionel Morgan, 5'8", 235. Got him by the jersey and rolled him down. It's a sophomore.
Lionel Morgan, big 9'5", coming up with the sack when it looked like Spartanburg was in position to threaten again, and with 90 seconds to go in the half. There's another injured player at down around the 10-yard line ahead of what's going to be an important third down with a ways to go for Spartanburg. So, boy, the last several moments, the physical nature of this game taking its toll, Tom.
Well, the way they're stretching, this one may be a cramp.
It's looking that way.
We'll identify when we can.
Well, it gives both these teams a chance to go over to their respective sidelines, because it may not be the fourth quarter yet, but the chess match is in full effect.
And that was a big play a moment ago, and the inability to have an opportunity even to throw it downfield.
Will, what's your brother's number? Huh?
So things have slowed down here. 1:30 to go, third quarter.
Looks like, again, best of signs. And, Tom, it has every indication of what you talked about is up under his own power is Aiden Montgomery. Well, a reminder, if you have not yet, make sure to visit our friends at Ingles, among the sponsors of Friday Night Rivals. They got all your needs covered this weekend. Big weekend of sports. Tomorrow, college football, baseball season winding down. Going to be a lot of fun this weekend. Certainly has been here at Spartan High tonight. And a little slip for Burke. Resets himself, and how about that? Gathered in on a beautiful toss, and Burke again had a little trouble with the footing. Remember, it was a little slick earlier tonight, but he delivers this on target, and you can move the chains with a First Franklin Financial first down and a First Bank red zone opportunity for Spartanburg on an on-time delivery from Trey Burke. There is the experience of the Spartanburg quarterback paying dividends. Now he can give to Lynch. Lynch good for 4 or so more on the first down play. Closing in on the final minute of the third quarter. Spartanburg suddenly in business again.
Yeah, watch this throw. He slipped. You're right. That's the second or third time we've seen that. And, you know, that young man, his leading receiver this year coming in, Zeke Bell-Boyd, 5'8", 155 senior, made a big one.
Zeke Bell-Boyd, a big catch here. Ferguson's had some of those tonight, including the touchdown catch earlier. And Lynch inside the 10. Just inside the 10 on this carry. Third down coming. Be interesting to see if they decide to do something with the balance of this third quarter, or if he wants to talk it over with his team and try to start the fourth quarter with a bang. You know, a Gaffney team that has outscored its opponents in the third quarter in the 4 games this season, 35-0. Spartanburg trying to change that. On this carry by Trenton Lynch, they will, and they'll change the complexion of this game as Lynch finds the end zone. Pending the extra point, we're all tied with seconds remaining in the third quarter. The classic you expected it to be, and the back you expected him to be. A South Carolina Army National Guard touchdown run for one of the best. Trenton Lynch carries it across the goal line and looking for the extra point to tie it.
He got you the first down on fourth down out of the Wildcat or the Wild Viking, whatever they call it here, and then he's going to finish it off and give those big guys up front. Tackle to tackle, tight end occasionally. Not very often with the spread offense, but the big guys up front have done a nice job, provide opportunity for that young man to get it to the end zone.
Had an injured player on the ground briefly for Gaffney, now up and moving along, looked to be Dawkins, but that run by Trenton Lynch, again, we said it's been a 100+ yard night for Lynch. We're going to get his numbers here at the end of the third quarter momentarily to pass along to you. But he's put together another, you said it, Tom, a couple of moments on that drive where his leadership as one of the junior captains on this Spartanburg Vikings team really placed on display. Important kick for Will Love. You know how good he is in these moments. Guy who's going to be kicking on Saturdays in the days ahead and perhaps beyond. Mark Hodge called him best kicker in the country, and there was no hesitation in his voice when he said it. He's certainly one of the best we've seen on our air. That Love family and their kicking ability on display here at Spartanburg for some time. He punches it right on through with 3 quarters almost completely in the books now. Just 5 seconds remaining in the third. These teams are even again. This is another one, Tom Van Hoy, between Spartanburg and Gaffney that's going to be settled in the fourth quarter.
You know, I really thought that they might let the clock run out and get down to the end of the third quarter and think about it. And they went up to the line of scrimmage, ran a play, and they didn't have to think about it. You know,
momentum over methodology on that occasion, and they decided to go ahead and give it to Trenton Lynch. I think the idea was we're going to give it to Trenton Lynch, whether it's at the end of the third or the start of the fourth quarter. Let's see what happens by giving it to Trenton Lynch, and that's exactly what worked out for Spartanburg.
You know, after that punt, and remember how that punt, you never know what the oblong ball had hit, and kicked it another 15 yards back to the 25-yard line, 75 yards, 406, 9-yard run for Lynch, and ties the game at 14. Did we expect anything different than this, given what's transpired the last 3 years particularly?
Well, speaking of expectations, your expectation would be that Love will put this into the end zone or beyond it. And Gaffney will have 5 seconds to work with if anything's going to happen with the balance of this third quarter.
I think he's got 3 tonight, would be 16 out of 27 in the year.
Like clockwork, there's another. Gaffney offense coming out, Spartanburg answering back. So how about the symmetry of this one so far? Spartanburg led 7-0. Gaffney answered with a touchdown. Gaffney gets that pick 6 you talked about to take their first lead. Spartanburg has now answered in the third quarter with a touchdown, and this one coming toward the wire yet again with high drama apparently on the horizon. Other thing you look at as you get ready to head into the fourth quarter momentarily is, you know, 2 experienced quarterbacks, 2 backs that have shown their will and their desire along the way tonight. This rivalry in good hands in the fourth quarter with all the playmakers on the field. Hold everything, though. Third quarter's got a little more impact for Gaffney, and into Spartanburg territory, and then some is the big back, rumbling all the way down to the Spartanburg 9-yard line on the carry that brings the quarter to a close. Josiah Hill, not just a bruiser at the back position, also pretty good at breaking loose. Now, there is a flag down. Everybody on the far side celebrating. Everybody on the near side lamenting the final play of the third quarter, only to look up and say, wait a minute, hold everything. A flag came in at the end of this, and it appears as if it's going to be against Gaffney on the return, or excuse me, on the first down play. It will not negate the first down, but it is going to take away the tremendous field position that Josiah Hill thought he had earned for his team. Remember, the Indians had the run of Boughton called back earlier on the touchdown, and this is a big one, as Gaffney will have the football with a first down to start the fourth, but it'll be on their own 39-yard line instead when you return for the bounce. First-year head coach Donnie Littlejohn and sixth-year head man on the Spartanburg side of things locked in a chess match as we move on into the final quarter. The 110th meeting between the Spartanburg Vikings and the Gaffney Indians. They are on their feet because it will be settled in this final period of football. You know, Tom, we find ourselves here coming toward the closure of the third, with the start of the fourth on the horizon once again, and you don't know who's going to come away with the W in this old classic Region 2 showdown.
Well, the last three, 27-24, 19-14, 26-20 in overtime, all won by Gaffney. Gaffney has won 8 consecutive games against the Vikings.
Yeah, but they've been close. Spartanburg having been right there. All right, so this is after the penalty. That final look, third quarter, which, you know, they thought perhaps was going to end up with Gaffney inside the Spartanburg 10-yard line. It was not to be. One more play required after the penalty, and it runs up near the first down marker at around the 48-yard line. Now we got a Spartanburg player down. And both teams going to their respective sidelines anyway, as we try to get a glance at who specifically this is for Spartanburg that is injured before they change sides and get ready to head into the fourth here. And a player for Spartanburg now up under his own power. That's a good sign, and certainly a good sign when you think about who it was. That was the captain, Carter Waugh, who is up under his own power now. So that brings this third period to an ultimate close, and they turn their attention towards swapping sides, and we turn our attention to another decisive fourth period between these two teams. And Tom, you know, you think about a year ago, 24-7 lead over at the reservation for the, as it's affectionately known, the home of the Gaffney Indians, for Spartanburg. Gaffney came storming back, gave Dan Jones, the retiring head coach of the Indians at the time, one more memory from this rivalry to pick up the W. 27-24, the final in that one. Not as many points here tonight, but 28 points between the two, split right down the middle. And as the fourth quarter begins, anybody's contest. First play of the fourth. Across the 50 and inside Spartanburg territory on this rush. As Gaffney keeps it on the ground, and that's Kendarius Bailey. Bailey, you know, known for his work on the defensive side of the football, but Kendarius, and as they term him Peanut Bailey, carries it across to the 48-yard line.
He's another guy, 212, and we saw the 71-yard run. It was called back on the penalty a moment ago by Hill, so getting a chance to play a little bit.
A Greenville awning first down, and here's Boughton on the carry, and he works his way down to the 30-yard line. Both these quarterbacks, and this is something to underscore as we work our way into this fourth quarter tonight, both these quarterbacks can decide to tuck it and beat you with their legs. Boughton giving you a vision of that right now as he rushes for the Greenville awning first down.
Well, I think what we've seen this last couple possessions by both teams is we're going to keep that ball on the ground and run it, and effectively there that time. And now you see Hill's back into the ball game there.
Both tremendously experienced quarterbacks, which has to make you feel a little better on each sideline going into the fourth. How about this move? Down inside the 20, a red zone chance coming after the carry of Josiah Hill.
Tell you what, that's a good tackle by R.J. Estridge. 5'8", 155, and you got 218 coming right at you.
Yeah, how would you like to have Josiah Hill coming downhill at you, or Lynch for that matter on the other side? It is a First Bank red zone chance for Gaffney, looking for the lead. First Bank, 23 locations across western North Carolina and the upstate to serve you. That's First Bank, sponsors of our red zone tonight. Trying to get loose. Remember, he had that long run, did Hill, at what looked to be the end of the third quarter. Called back on the penalty. He's carried a good bit of the load tonight for Gaffney in more ways than one, as he's thrown off defenders, much like you saw there on more than one occasion. Had Gaffney's first touchdown, in which he drug a couple of defenders into the end zone with him. He has been a force for Gaffney tonight. Josiah Hill.
It took Brendan Carson all of 303 to bring him down. Nice job to recover there by the big guy.
Boughton still up and gathered up from behind at just outside the 10-yard line. Third down coming from the 11.
Good size, 6'2", 208. And man, he gets hit there and keeps his balance and able to get a couple of more yards along the way. Jalen Mathis, linebacker, made contact, kept driving, a few more yards.
Third down.
It's a big play.
6.
Well, they're all big plays at this point.
This one going to have a great deal of say on the outcome of this drive. Boughton keeps it, and he is near the marker. Let's see where they spot him. It appears as if he is going to have enough for a Greenville awning. First down. First and goal for Gaffney at the 5.
Well, you've got to respect the fake, the inside handoff on the dive there, and just step outside and get good yardage there.
Indians looking for an early fourth quarter lead in what has been a back and forth contest tonight. Boughton gives to Hill, and he had one thing on his mind. End zone. That is a South Carolina Army National Guard touchdown for Josiah Hill, the senior's second of the night. A guy who came over from a place they know a little bit about battling, Kings Mountain, one of the great locations from the American Revolution. As a pleasant surprise, as we were told by the Gaffney folks on this roster, has provided a couple of surprises tonight and gives Gaffney a 20-14 advantage with his Army National Guard touchdown. South Carolina National Guard TD for the kid from Kings Mountain. Here is a flag on the extra point, which was true to make it 21-14 and may very well be handled on what's to follow. A touchdown drive in the early portion of the fourth quarter for Gaffney. And the Indians have a 21-14 advantage. Well, the question tonight is going to be just how dirty Josiah Hill can get that jersey. He is our Henson's Mulch and More dirty jersey of the game for this effort, carrying the pile with him on the earlier TD and deciding nothing was going to stop him from a second half touchdown as well. Josiah Hill, our Henson's Mulch and More dirty jersey of the game, as he gives Gaffney the lead in the early stages of the fourth quarter.
Yeah, they utilized the running game with the big guy there. He had that 71-yard run called back because of the penalty. Still had pretty good field position at the 39-yard line. They'll go 80 yards in 3:07. He'll get second touchdown run there. Also had the INT for score.
He's closing in on 100 yards in his own right on right around 15 carries tonight. And his counterpart going to get a chance to wow him again on the Spartanburg side of things in a minute. Trenton Lynch, who has carried the football 22 times tonight for 166 yards and a touchdown of his own. A couple of backs, Tom, that are averaging somewhere around 6 yards a carry and 7.5 yards a carry apiece in this one tonight. Josiah Hill for the Indians, Trenton Lynch for the Vikings. For all the talk about the talented quarterbacks, the experienced quarterbacks, and yes, they're there, these two running backs have put on a show tonight.
Yeah, Lynch averages 161 yards per game, and he has now gone over 800 for the year, and he now has 10 touchdowns as well. And Hill's the guy that came in with 192 rush and 4 touchdowns. He's got a couple more TDs, and he's had a big night tonight. Get himself up over 300 yards. But what was also effective in that particular drive there was the fact that Banks Bowden, the quarterback, was able to utilize his legs and run the football effectively as well.
Gaffney to kick it away. Spartanburg's turn. And that's the way this feels now, right, Tom? Your turn.
Yes, it is.
Their turn. Your turn. Our turn. It's going to be back and forth between these two, and maybe one of those classic battles of who has the last crack at it between these two. And speaking of those numbers for Trenton Lynch, here they are in real time for you. 22 carries, 166 yards tonight. Of course, has the touchdown, which he secured a bit earlier, which tied the football game up at 14 apiece. But Gaffney on the march in the early stages of the fourth, and his Vikings are looking for a drive to tie it up again. This is through the air. What a job to make an adjustment, and he just couldn't quite bring the catch in. That had all the makings for Ferguson, and it's just out of his grasp in the end.
A good job by Burke. He got drilled as he let it go, and just dropped the ball. Had what they wanted there. Stood in there, took a shot, just couldn't reel it in.
Lynch. How many times will Trenton Lynch touch the football between here and the finish line for the Spartanburg Vikings? Safe to say that pitch count's gone.
Yeah, he's going to carry the football.
What did Mark Koch tell us? The bigger the game, the more he will be carrying the football, the more he'll have it in his hands. And boy, has he been just what they said he was on that Spartanburg sideline, legit tonight. These players on both sides, they've been just what they told us they were, whether it be the Spartanburg staff, the Gaffney staff, and now it's a matter of who rises to the occasions. This through the fingertips and incomplete. And that's going to quickly bring up a 4th down scenario here. Take a look at this as Burt was trying to get it into that Gaffney secondary, but that was closer to a pick for Gaffney that would have made things a whole lot tougher than anything else. And Spartanburg now with the kicking unit out there, the punting unit onto the field with 8:19 to play.
Yeah, that was just a 39-second possession, and it goes back to the drop pass on first down, and then you get yourself behind the chains a little bit there.
Boy, how different would this drive have been for Spartanburg had Kevion Ferguson been able to do something with. And he made a great adjustment just to give himself a chance on that ball after he was turned around the other way initially. It was not to be. Another memorable night at Doc Davis Field in Spartanburg. Gaffney just about to get the football back. Going to be a penalty against the Vikings. Going to back them up behind the sticks at the 19-yard line before they kick it away. Booming kick this time from Love. Gaffney, return man, will fair catch it at the 43-yard line. And that's where the visitors will take over with a 7-point advantage and the football.
Yeah, really good.
8:08 to play.
Field position here, and I would imagine with 8:08 to play and the success they had keeping the ball on the ground. And you know, we saw Hill, we saw Bailey a little bit as well, but one of the keys was Boughton's ability as a quarterback to keep the ball himself. So I think we'll see a lot of that here on this drive. We get late, and another touchdown would be really difficult for the Vikes to come back.
Well, it's a lot of time on that game clock. 8:08. How many touches will that translate into for both teams? Kept on the ground. Gaffney will give it to Justin Dawkins. Works his way forward with a positive first down gain.
Just handed in, and the big offensive line, I think the D line and the backers have done a good job for the most part here tonight, and maybe it worn down a little bit here as we get midway through the fourth quarter of play.
Both teams with right around 250 yards of total offense in this one as we work into the middle stages of this fourth period. Remember, they were 134 on one side, 134 on the other in total yards at the half. All those peripheral numbers going to the wayside now as it's about who can end up on top on the scoreboard. And here is Boughton working his way beyond the sticks. And Boughton testing there with those defenders as he tried to utilize the stiff arm in securing the Greenville awning first down for Gaffney.
I'll tell you, he came in 27 for 189 and 4 touchdowns, but that's the play. They fake it up inside. They've been able to run successfully, and then he is able to step out and get the corner and end up with some pretty good yardage there when he keeps the football.
The former Greenville star with the Greenville awning first down. A reminder, our first downs in this fourth quarter brought to you by Greenville Awning Company and Custom Shade Solutions for businesses and homes all across the state of South Carolina.
Well, good to see Wall back in there. He was part of that tackle.
Yep.
He'd gone off a little bit earlier.
Right in the thick of it again, and he brings Josiah Hill down. That'll take the clock under 7 minutes to play.
Let's see if he pulls it out this time. What we have seen is they'll jam it up inside, and usually get pretty good yardage doing that as well. And then Boughton's been able to get out on the edge and get good yardage as well. This could be a time-consuming drive late here in the ball game.
Well, this is going to already take it down to about 6.5 minutes. Gaffney content to take its time. And this is going to allow them to take a little more time. That's first down yardage. Rushing right between the hashes and at the teeth of the Spartanburg defense. Another dose of Josiah Hill and another Greenville awning first down.
Yeah, Jason, you're talking about Scotland Dover, left tackle, and Darius Littlejohn, the left guard, Trey Dawkins, center, Cameron Shippey, right guard, and then Brooks at 336, the right tackle, and Dover's at 289 as a tackle as well. So big guys up front. Littlejohn is 249, Shippey 247, Dawkins, little guy, 200.
Yes, Shippey, who was, we were told, the senior, or the center, I should say, a year ago, now in his senior campaign, a versatile guy who's been willing to play wherever. And you mentioned Scotland Dover. He's the captain and the best overall offensive lineman out of the group. They're all making space right now for the backs, and down inside the 25 to the 22, maybe the 21-yard line. And again, this takes it to your point a moment ago, Tom, down around 5.5 minutes all of a sudden. And Gaffney on the march. I mean, you take more time off here and end this with points, going to make it really tough on the Vikings.
Yeah, and there's no reason to throw the football at this point. The success they've had on the ground, we'll see. So they probably will. But
this looks like those Gaffney teams of old, right? Not so much razzle-dazzle on this occasion as it is line it up, use the sides up front, and that's exactly what the Indians are doing right now.
Yeah, and given the circumstances of the game,
absolutely,
very wise decision.
Second down from just inside the 22. Moving with them inside the 10 down to the 5-yard line, and there's another carry for the third back we've talked a little bit about tonight, Tom.
Seen Bailey here in the second half, again listed as an outside linebacker and getting some offensive exploits here down the stretch.
Peanut Bailey working his way to the 5-yard line. And the clock working its way down to 4:38 and ticking downward. Bailey, who's provided a nice compliment tonight to the combo of Hill and Dawkins. Hill with the 2 touchdowns to his credit. You take that and the pick 6 from Ty McGill, number 22 on the defensive side. Those are the 3 Gaffney scores to this point. Bailey still on his feet and into the end zone. A South Carolina Army National Guard touchdown for Bailey, and the Gaffney Indians will stretch it out to their largest lead, and the largest lead either team has enjoyed on the night. Still just a couple of scores and still plenty of time at 4:09, but a little bit of breathing room here all of a sudden for Gaffney. And regardless of who the back has been of late, that group up front you talked about, Tom, making plenty of space to push it to 27-14. 27, that was enough in the game a year ago. Extra point will make it 28 here, and the lead 2 touchdowns for Gaffney.
They kept it on the ground, Jason. 57 yards, 359. Bailey, the final 6 or so yards for the touchdown there. And you think back, the touchdown and then a 3-and-out, 39-second offensive possession. Good field position. Just put it on the ground. Big guys up front and take it in for the score.
The junior, Kadarius Peanut Bailey, with the touchdown run. He's been a factor on both sides tonight. Tom, they begin to celebrate on that Gaffney sideline the fact that there's a little room to work with now. It's going to take 2 scores for Spartanburg, and you know, can Spartanburg strike quickly offensively and score twice? Absolutely. The big question mark is going to be the one that was asked at the start of the football game tonight. Can this defense for Spartanburg find a stop at some point to give them a chance to battle completely back in this thing?
Big turn of events there. For the most part, the defense is been pretty good, but I think here in the second half they've got worn down a little bit. The 2 touchdown drives for Spartanburg in this one, 60 yards and 252, and a 9-yard touchdown pass from Trey Burke to Kevayon Ferguson, and then the other score was a 78-yard drive and 406, a 9-yard run by Lynch. So they've been able to take it the distance, 75 yards, I guess 75 yards, and 252 and 406. So they have the ability to do that, but boy, you're getting late into this one down by 2 touchdowns.
28-14. Again, I'll underscore it. The largest lead either team has enjoyed tonight. They were never separated by more than a score into the depths of the 4th quarter. Well, one of the reasons things changing in Gaffney's favor here in this second half.
This is the school bus stop of the game. Always remember to stop when the school bus arm is out.
This, one of the reasons. It was the stop to the Spartanburg drive and a pick 6 for Gaffney, as the 2nd interception of the night for Ty McGill. Familiar name when you talk about all those legacy players on both sides in this rivalry. This put Gaffney on the board in the third quarter, and it serves as our school bus stop of the game. Indians have since added a couple of touchdowns on the offensive side of things. And Tom, sense of urgency now for Spartanburg with just under 4 minutes to play.
Yeah, they've got to get some yardage, and they've got to get it in a hurry, and they need to get a stop defensively, which they haven't been able to do the last 2 possessions.
They need to look no further than what Gaffney did a year ago in this rivalry. A fourth quarter come from behind victory, something the Vikings are certainly capable of. And Lynch carries it across the 30 to the 31. Flag comes in at the end of this. That may tack on a little more. We'll see based upon where and when that flag was thrown. Clock stopped with 3:50 to play. That's the thing about waiting on Lynch to have an opportunity to kind of pop one here. Makes it tougher on the ground. And it is going to be walked off against Gaffney. It'll mean a first down, and even better spot on the field for Spartanburg as it carries it up across the 35 to the 36.
Well, you need to get something there. Good to see that young man back into the ball game. We saw him go off earlier. Kamari Williams.
Burke looking to the skies. Pretty good adjustment made there, but the coverage was true as well as he tried to get one into the grasp of his target on the far side, only to see Kareem Shaw, one of the Gaffney captains, turn it aside. It's great coverage here.
He almost made an outstanding catch, but one-on-one coverage there, yeah.
Exactly right. That nearly found the receiver's hands as Skylar Douglas, the junior, was the intended target. Burke swings that out far side. Enough room to get near the marker. As positive yards for Ferguson, who's been a factor tonight for Spartanburg, as the Vikings in a manageable third down.
So that was an interesting decision there. It worked out successfully, but there wasn't anybody near Burke. But you know what? He saw an open receiver out that way, and he knew what to do with it once he caught it. Nice
Time
job.
just as precious, and it's down to 3 and change remaining on a 3rd down and 1. Again, the experienced quarterback, Trey Burke, and the explosive playmaker, Trenton Lynch, working together to move the chains. It's into Gaffney territory at the 45. First down of the Greenville awning variety for Spartanburg as the Vikings stay on the move.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you're Gaffney, you're all right with this. I mean, Lynch getting some yardage, and the clock continues to run, and you know, you still got 45 yards to go before you get to the end zone.
Spartanburg needing 2 scores. That's what Tom's referencing. Burke looking up top, and just in behind the defender was Davis, but there was too much air underneath it for him to corral it. 2nd down and 10. That'll stop the clock with 2:42 to play.
Yeah, good one-on-one coverage. Montgomery got the defensive assignment there. Hey, let me update one score for you. Dorman leads at Burns 33-21 in the 4th quarter.
How about that?
That brand new facility there, that'd be a big one.
We will be visiting the Cavaliers next week. Make plans to join us on Friday Night Rivals from Dorman High School as Boiling Springs travels in for the showdown between the Bulldogs and the Cavs next week, and then we go to Gaffney for that Burns team that's also playing in that game tonight in 2 weeks. Boy, nice toss. Davis right where he needed to be, makes a couple of men miss, and he'll be tackled from behind, but not before he's in the first bank red zone for Spartanburg. Don't count the Vikings out yet.
Found himself open there, and good job to throw off the back foot there, and then knew what to do with it after he made the catch.
Nothing quite like an experienced QB in a moment like this, and Trey Burke has every bit of that. Among the best QBs in the state, and he's directing everything at the 2:22 mark as he snaps it. Looking for the end zone. Double pumps. Now we'll just send it underneath the Lynch, who's knocked out of bounds at the 10-yard line. And Spartanburg's going to have it with 2:12 remaining in the football game, very much in striking distance now.
Yeah, I tell you, he did a good job to buy some time and finally found somebody open there. And you know, you're kind of trying to have a scramble drill, fire drill there to get something to work, and it was successfully executed.
Up top, too strong and incomplete. Third down, Spartanburg. Now you're looking at a scenario where these two play calls responsible for hope continuing to spring eternal for Spartanburg.
Pretty good matchup there. You had the corner Aiden Montgomery on the wide receiver Zeke Bell Boyd.
Third down call coming. Again, 2:08 on the clock, but right now, a couple of downs to at least get a first down, potentially a touchdown, knowing you need 2 scores. And they're going to snap it to Lynch, and he works his way through to the 6-yard line. That is going to move the chains. First and goal for Spartanburg with right at 2 minutes remaining. So that's the second time tonight, a key situation we've seen Spartanburg go to Trenton Lynch in the Wildcat. Good luck stopping it, right, with all his ability.
Yeah, they've done a good job. Started the 20-yard line at 4:05, so they're able to negotiate.
That's a play that's going to put nightmares in the minds of defensive coordinators all around the state when Spartanburg is in close football games this year, as they hope to be in a moment here. 152. Lynch is stopped at just inside the 5, and we got timeout being called for here. So those precious timeouts having to be utilized ahead of the second down and goal play.
And there's Kelton Smith, 6'4", 315 senior. He's the nose guard, big guy up inside, along with Ari Williams. The linebacker's been tough tonight as well. Ratchford, Bailey on both sides of the football. McGill, a couple interceptions here tonight.
All right. Spartanburg knocking on the doorstep here. Knocking on the doorstep. Grab all the different ways you want to term it, but Tom,
you got
right here, right now, there has to be a touchdown for the Vikings, and then with that timeout having to be used there by Spartanburg, you're probably looking at relying pretty heavily on the talented leg of Will Love to get the job done in securing you the football back. It is not without its drama, this final 152 remaining in the 110th meeting between these two upstate rivals.
Well, it's been a really effective drive and an impressive drive, much needed one here, down by 2 touchdowns. Now it's taken a little bit of time to get down there as it winds down, but from Spartanburg's standpoint, they've given themselves an opportunity, but they need to score sooner rather than later and then see what they can do on the kickoff.
Trey Burke leading them back out there. He's got Lynch off his right hip this time, sends a man in motion, and is going to fire this into the end zone. That is incomplete. It's downs more than clock right now in this scenario in terms of having to score. A few seconds ticked off there at 1:46, but third down. The all-important communication is coming.
I think he's trying to get Davis, and then you've got Dawkins there. It was right with him. I tell you, man-to-man coverage, they've been pretty good tonight on the backside.
There have been wilder finishes in the history between these two teams and a couple of scores in the closing couple of moments. So I wouldn't go anywhere just yet. I know we're locked in on this one for sure. Third down. And looking over to the sideline after he spots something is Burke. And Spartanburg now going to have to burn another one of those timeouts. So it is now, without question, a touchdown on onside and another touchdown that's going to need to be executed in pretty impressive fashion for the Vikings. But, you know, Tom, you have to take those one step at a time. And right here, right now, it's 2 plays to get in the end zone for the Vikings.
Yeah, that's a tough one. You have to use a timeout right there. I mean, it's your 3rd and goal, and you want to make sure that you get what you want here. But, boy, you could sure use that timeout a little bit later on. And what we saw on the last drive from Spartanburg was, or I should say from Gaffney, was they would run a play and they'd run the clock down to 2 or 3 seconds. Did a great job running some time off at that particular occasion. But it's been a heck of a drive, though, to give the Vikings a chance here late in the ball game to maybe get one in and see what they can do on the kickoff here.
Yeah, remember, it's 8 minutes at one point on that Gaffney drive, and they ended up taking the clock all the way down and making Spartanburg have to function quickly here. 28-14 as they continue to play with gusto on that far side, thinking that if their defense can come away with a stop here, it's all but sealed. Spartanburg, again, trying to keep hope alive with a touchdown. Vikings with plenty of horses to make that happen. Burke rolls near side, throws to the back of the end zone, and that's caught for a Spartanburg touchdown. There is step one for the Vikings with a South Carolina Army National Guard TD. Well executed in the back of the end zone. More than once tonight, Ferguson has been right where he's needed to be.
Tell you what, nicely done. Had to buy some time and just see it kind of keep running that pattern, and he put it right there on the money, deep in the corner of the end zone, and nicely done. Reeled it in. He had to catch it with the right hand to begin things, and you know, they're keeping, here I am, and there he is.
Second touchdown catch of the night for Kevion Ferguson. Extra point for Will Love. As true as he has generally been for Spartanburg, and the work he will do next even more important, Tom, as the Vikings try to get the football back.
Impressive drive, and took over, it was 80 yards, and took over at the 405 mark and then to 136. So they were able to negotiate that distance in a couple of minutes there, and the bottom line was gives them an opportunity to maybe get it back. You never know.
Seems almost impossible to finish one of these between the Vikings and the Indians with more than one possession between them. Here we are again, the separation, one score between these two longtime rivals. In over 100 meetings, we told you coming in, this was the 110th meeting between these two teams. Been another memorable night at Doc Davis Field here at Viking Stadium in Spartanburg. And now, again, I'll underscore it, the work Will Love is about to do here in the kicking scenario. The next step in Spartanburg's hopes of coming away with one of those memorable come-from-behind fourth-quarter wins in this series. Looking to get the ball back with a chance to find a tying score, but it comes down to what happens on this kickoff.
Offense, let's go. Offense, let's go.
First of what's a month or so of football games that should be just like this for these two teams when you look at the schedule moving forward in Region 2. Only one of them will exit tonight unbeaten in region play. Here's the onside try, covered up by the Gaffney hands team. And that should allow the Indians to salt away what would be the latest victory against Spartanburg as they hold a 7-point advantage and the football.
Yeah, nicely done there, able to get on the football. And that was Ratchford. We've seen him as a linebacker, but I like the way they did it and the way they set it up, because the wide side of the field, usually you're going to hit a high bounding ball, kind of weaved and turned around and just hit a line shot there. And good job by him to get the ball.
One of the senior captains, Zion Ratchford, who's going to be a North-South All-Star, has already selected this season. He's the heartbeat of this defense as described by his staff. And he covers it up to make sure Gaffney is in position to put the finishing touches on this. Final 90 seconds of the football game. You would expect the Indians to keep it on the ground. You know, one more first down, and you're talking victory formation here for Gaffney. And Tom, this is an impressive win. Remember, Spartanburg went out front early 7-0. Gaffney had to battle back from behind, and the Indians taking command in the second half, and now looking for what would be a W and a key region victory tonight. We got a Spartanburg player down, and it's like coming to his feet now is Centel Hall Jr., one of the sophomores on this young Spartanburg secondary. Good things from the young Spartanburg defense tonight, though. They kept their team in the thick of it at times, and looks like in the end, Gaffney, barring something crazy here, which has happened in this rivalry before, even on kneel downs, folks will tell you, in this rivalry before. But barring something unusual here, it looks like first-year head coach Donnie Littlejohn in position to secure his first win as a head coach against the Spartanburg Vikings in this rivalry. we saw some good things from Spartanburg tonight in terms of the way they can trend forward coming up on a very tough stretch.
Yeah, for the most part, they did a pretty good job of handling the running game, but they established it in the second half and really kind of wore them down a little bit.
And there is a look at Donnie Littlejohn, first-year head coach of the Gaffney Indians. He was longtime offensive coordinator for Dan Jones. He said Dan's still a mentor, Dan's still around. What a luxury it is to lean on him heavily, to contact even the Spartanburg head coach and some of the other coaches around the region that he's known for years. Brought in some, as we documented earlier, successful coaches from around the state to enhance his approach in areas that would shore up his vision for this team this year. And as they continue chasing number 19, his team tonight doing what he asked them to do, doing it the right way. And that's what he's about, Tom, on and off the field. And this one is going to be a big one in the back pocket of Donnie Littlejohn, one of the great names there in Gaffney, with a great history there in Gaffney. And tonight, he is seconds away now as we're in the final minute of the contest from his first real marquee win there at the helm of the Indians.
Coming on the road to get it. And
yes.
It just went final. Dorman wins at Burns 33-21. So two teams that win on the road got wins tonight.
Tells you that Region 2 is going to be a lot of fun again here in 2025. Certainly seems that way. And here on the keeper is the Gaffney quarterback, Banks Boughton. That will move the chains. It's a Greenville awning first down, and it means a Gaffney victory in this one as they're getting set to gather up in that victory formation. Fans on their feet on the far side, those who've made the trip over from Cherokee County, beginning to sense it now after their quarterback. And make no mistake, Tom, this is now his team. Banks Boughton, on whose shoulders the hopes, the potential championship hopes these Gaffney Indians will rest. We saw a lot of good things from Spartanburg, a team also many believe can be right there in the thick of a championship pursuit this year. And once more, they settle it by a single score. The horn sounds, and the Gaffney Indians with 28 on the board come into Spartanburg tonight, pick up the victory 28-21. The final. We'll be back to wrap it, have the Bojangles Trophy presentation coming up when you return to Spartanburg County. First-year head coach Donnie Littlejohn and his Gaffney Indians. A one-score victory over the Spartanburg Vikings tonight. Gaffney makes the trip over, Tom. They come from behind in the early stages here, continue to run their winning streak against Spartanburg a little higher here, and the 110th meeting goes their directions. Now, there is much for Mark Hodge to build on. He's got a young defense. You could see them grow up in many ways at times before our very eyes tonight. He's got an explosive back, a talented QB, and one of the best kickers in the state. So Spartanburg will be heard from. This night, however, belongs to a Gaffney team that found a way to gut out a victory in this one.
Yeah, found a way to get it done. You're right about that. And, you know, one that played well last week in a win over Bowling Springs 34-7. Had that tough loss against Greenville 17-14. Of course, Independence is out of Charlotte is one of the best teams in the state, ranked number 7 right now. And, you know, the way they were able to do it, I think they just established the run, and they were able to take it up inside with the big guy Hill. Bailey got in there there a little bit. We also saw Dawkins as well, but Banks Boughton became a big factor in the run game.
And it's his team, no doubt about it, moving forward. They roll up 336 yards of total offense tonight. He mentioned a couple of touchdowns by Hill and the way Boughton managed the game. Add it all up, it's 28 on the board for Gaffney, and a victory for the Indians. Time for the Bojangles Trophy presentation as the Gaffney Indians are standing by.
Thanks, Tom. Thanks, Jason. This is the Coach's Corner, brought to you by Carolina Furniture Contest. Well, Coach, first thing is first, congratulations on an amazing win here tonight. What were your thoughts on the second half of the game, Coach?
Well, at halftime, we challenged our offense to come out and establish a run game, and I think these guys did that. You know, our defense has been playing really good all night. They held us in the game in the first half, and so I just think the second half was a total team effort.
Coach, you mentioned that word, the defense, just now, and of course, Gaffney High School, you guys are known for y'all's incredible defense. Let's talk about the resiliency and tenacity of your defense here tonight.
Well, these guys take pride in flying around. They take pride in you know, in being able to stop the run and defend the pass. You know, number 22 had 2 interceptions tonight. You know, he should have scored twice, but hey, it is what it is. I'm super proud of him. You know, this is a big win for this program.
Now, Coach, as you know, we are coming to the reservation in 2 weeks' time for y'all. It's a big matchup against Burns High School. Let's talk about how excited you guys are going to be for that game. What else can we expect for y'all for the remainder of the season and beyond?
Well, Burns is 2 weeks away. Next week, we got to get ready for Eastside. You know, we're going to love to have y'all at Gaffney when we play Burns, but we're not worried about Burns right now. We're worried about beating Eastside next week.
All right. Well, Coach, once again, congratulations, and this belongs to you. Congratulations to you. Congratulations, team!
Just a few short years ago, an interception by number 22 in Columbia meant a state championship was secured for the Gaffney Indians. Number 18, who saw one of their early steps here in 2025 in the pursuit of, as they said, chasing 19. He said they're chasing it for the honor of God. They want to honor God. They want to do it for Jaden McDowell, who they lost earlier, for Seth Phillips, one of their key leaders. Both those guys on the sideline tonight. His team did it, as he said, the right way. We do look forward to being at Gaffney in 2 weeks. Burns will be rolling in there. Rebels and Indians, always one of the best showdowns. Between here and there, we'll be at Dorman next week. Boiling Springs comes in an all Spartanburg County showdown. We look forward to having you join us for that one. Until then, for my broadcast partners, Tom Van Hoy, Nelson down on the sideline, everybody working hard for you in the truck and beyond. Thanks for joining us. This one goes to Gaffney. Number 28 goes on the board, and it's a one-score victory for the Indians.